Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. It is a Tuesday morning. It is January 24th, and it is a nice, bright, cool, and crisp winter morning across Memphis and the Mid-South. That's a live look from our High 5 camera downtown Memphis. It looks gorgeous, doesn't it? You can see a barge there going underneath the I-40 bridge. Traffic running smoothly on a Tuesday. Look at this shot from our High 5 camera. You can see sunshine just blanketing Memphis and the Mid-South. It's going to look like this for the better part of the morning and some of the afternoon, but clouds are moving in, and we're going to see some showers later today. Meteorologist Brittany Bryant has not only that, but your 7-day forecast.
Hey, good morning. Let me show you what it looks like outside. We still have sunshine in Midtown Memphis, but as we get a little later in the afternoon, clouds build in by 1 o'clock. It's mostly cloudy. You also have a few showers by that point of the day in Harrisburg and Forest City and Clarksdale. By 5 o'clock, though, we get widespread rain. So from Memphis up into Dyersburg, Brownsville, seeing some showers. And you'll notice where you see the yellows and the oranges as we go through time here. We are seeing some heavy rain this evening through at least 11 o'clock tonight. The threat for severe weather, none of that. And also some winter weather north of us, where you see the pink and that purple. That's snow and sleet north of the Mid-South. Temperatures above freezing here, upper 30s, low 40s. So we may see a little bit of sleet mixed in near Harrisburg, Blytheville, and Dyersburg, but again, none of that will be sticking to the ground. It's mostly just rain for us. By tomorrow morning, 8:30 here, heavy rain's gone, but we'll still have drizzle and mist and clouds in place on Wednesday. Not the best day for us on the backside of that front. The rainfall totals around 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Higher totals over towards Marks and Oxford, closer to that 1.5 inch mark. No flash flooding expected with this, but you may see some ponding, especially tonight if you are driving around on the roads. Wind advisory in place for us tonight, too. At 6 o'clock is when that goes into effect. Lasts through 9 o'clock tomorrow, and some of those winds could get over 30 miles per hour tonight. This is 7 o'clock tonight. About 20 miles per hour in Memphis, but 32 mile per hour gusts there in Helena. We'll also have wind gusts around 30 miles per hour across much of the Mid-South at 9 o'clock tonight. And then could see those gusts go as high. You'll notice here near Holly Springs and Oxford, 36, 37 miles per hour through midnight tonight. We still keep those winds strong, and you'll have those wind gusts, as I mentioned, 30 miles per hour and up through early tomorrow morning. It'll probably be windy tomorrow all day too. Check out these temperatures. Around 40 this morning, 49 at noon, right around 50 degrees at 3 o'clock too. So even with some clouds and showers, we're still going to hit near 50 degrees, and then 44 degrees by 7 o'clock tonight. High of 50 today. Showers start moving in, as I mentioned, later this afternoon. So we'll start off dry, and then a 90% chance of rain tonight, with those temperatures dropping down to the upper 30s this evening. We dry out for Thursday and Friday, but then more rain moves in this weekend. Clouds increase on Saturday. May squeeze out a stray shower, especially late in the day, but Saturday is the best day to do something outside. By Sunday, though, we have temperatures in the lower 50s and a 40% chance of rain. Right now, Sunday morning and early afternoon look like your best bet for getting any rain. If anything changes with rain chances today or for this weekend, we'll update you on our First Alert weather app. Just search for WMC in the App Store and you can download that one for free. Our First Alert 7-day forecast, 50 degrees today, 44 tomorrow. And because of those strong winds tomorrow, 20, 30 mile per hour gusts, we'll probably have wind chills in the 30s all day tomorrow. We're at 43 degrees on Thursday, 52 on Friday. I showed you those 50s over the weekend, but behind Sunday's cold front, we'll drop down to around 40 degrees for a high on Monday.
Civil rights attorney Ben Crump and the family of Tyre Nichols are revealing more details about the night that Tyre Nichols' traffic stop happened January 7th and reviewing Memphis police video yesterday. Action News 5's Stephanie Douglas has more.
No father, mother should have to witness what I saw today.
At Mount Olive Cathedral CME Church, people from all over came together in solidarity for Tyre Nichols. His parents pouring out their hearts about their youngest son, who they say was murdered by 5 black Memphis police officers.
I know everybody say mothers say they had a good son, everybody's son is good, but my son, he actually was a good boy.
Rodney and Rovon Wells say their son was known for this: being a talented skateboarder and loving father to a 4-year-old. Monday, they and their attorneys watched a 3-minute video of Tyre's final moments on January 7th when he was pulled over by unmarked police vehicles. Nichols' attorney says that the video shows Tyre being pepper sprayed, tased, and beaten.
He was defenseless the entire time. He was a human pinata for those police officers.
The last words on the video, he's only about 80 to 100 yards from his house, and he calls for his mom 3 times, "Mom."
Civil rights attorney Ben Crump says the video was appalling, heinous, and violent on every level.
My son was a great, great kid. He didn't deserve what he got. Now what he deserves is justice.
Okay, and that was Stephanie Douglas reporting that the Nichols family had a chance to view that video privately. In a statement, Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy said in part the video will not be publicly released until later this week or next week once the internal investigation is complete. The Nichols family and attorneys asked for patience from the public and that any protests are peaceful. We're also learning more about first responders, city leaders, local law enforcement at a community meeting where they talked about Tyre Nichols yesterday. The meeting started with a moment of silence for Nichols, with city leaders offering their condolences. It happened shortly after the family viewed the video footage. Councilman J.B. Smiley says that the 2 Memphis Fire Department employees relieved of duty were EMTs.
I think Director Sweat took the necessary position of immediately removing them from duty. I think that's what has to be done. We have to send a very strong message that any type of misconduct will not be allowed to go on in the city administration.
So that's Councilman J.B. Smiley. He says Memphis city leaders will not only offer their condolences, but a commitment to work together to make sure nothing like this happens again. The names of the Memphis Fire Department employees have not been released. Okay, well, if you need a registration on your vehicle or a title today or later this week or even next week, forget about going to the Shelby County Clerk's office downtown. County Clerk Wanda Halpert is closing the department for the rest of this week and all of next week. She says this measure is meant to allow her team to process and clear up registration and title requests. She says February can be a busy time for drivers needing new tags. Investigators looking for answers after a small box with an urn inside washed ashore Daphne, Alabama over the weekend. It's believed the urn holds ashes of a baby possibly born in Memphis. Karis Harmon has more.
Along with homemade items like a baby blanket and mittens, clay hand and footprints, and a bracelet from a hospital located in Memphis, Tennessee. Daphne police say they believe it's a bereavement box. They believe the urn is holding the ashes of a baby boy, although the urn has not been opened. The box that washed ashore is about the size of a small toolbox. Daphne police have not contacted the hospital yet, but they do say there are 7 healthcare facilities associated with that hospital. According to police, it didn't look like the box had been in the water for an extended period of time because the box was still intact and nothing on the inside had gotten wet. Now, where this box came from, police don't quite know yet.
There are so many things that could have happened. Could it have come from flood water? Somebody's home got flooded and it floated out. Could somebody have thrown it off the bayway? There's no telling.
Okay, let's talk about stress. We always hear about stress being so hard for your health, but there's actually something that researchers are saying is healthy stress. This is what we talked about in our Best Life report. Check it out. Project deadlines, family drama, and packed schedules can add a lot of stress to someone's day.
Your cortisol goes up, which means your fuel consumption goes up. So what happens, you actually fire up your body. And if you keep it that way, it's like driving your car down the freeway in second gear.
But research shows not all stress is actually bad for you. A study from Stanford University discovered that manageable daily stress may help protect against oxidative damage, which is linked to disease and aging. Some other upsides of stress include increasing motivation to finish projects on time, promoting bonding and social connections with others, boosting immunity and building resilience, and encouraging growth, especially in those children who learn techniques to cope with stress, like meditation or checking in with yourself. Researchers say it's not a stressful situation that affects our health, but rather how we let the stressful situation impact us long after it's occurred. For instance, within 90 seconds from a stress-inducing experience like someone cutting you off in traffic, the stress chemicals your brain releases have completely dissipated from your blood. And if you're still angry after 90 seconds, that stress will continue. With ways to live your best life, I'm Andrew Douglas, Action News 5. Okay, let's talk about St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. They cut a ribbon on its first treatment-free, clinical staff-free floor. Let's show you some pictures here. This is a 45,000 square foot space. It gives patients and their families a home-like atmosphere made possible by a $50 million donation from biopharmaceutical company called Abivi. The common space is for everything from quiet time, woodworking, and playtime. Marlo Thomas, the daughter of founder Danny Thomas, was there for the ribbon cutting and directly involved with the design and the creation of the Family Commons.
And that's really important. I mean, to be able to give children a respite from, appointment after appointment after appointment, and their parents too. It's tiring, it's scary, sometimes painful. There's so much that they have to go through, and then they come here and they get to be a kid. They get to have joy, and their parents take off their shoes and sit down in a nook and then, have a cup of coffee. I mean, I think of the moms and dads, all of them. It's just if I was going to call this anything, I would call it the family blessing.
Family Commons will open to patients and their families on February 7th. The FDA wants to simplify how we stay up to date on COVID boosters. If you are interested in getting one, the FDA says there is a plan to create a single shot every year. Many people are not on board with this, and more people do not want it. Okay, nationwide egg shortage that's led to empty store shelves, leading to some people getting creative to find some solutions. This is following a rise in attempts to smuggle eggs, get this, from Mexico into the U.S. Cole Higgins has more on this.
As an egg shortage sends prices for the breakfast staple soaring, some Americans are taking matters into their own hands.
I used to buy it for $1.99, $2.99. But no, that price is crazy.
At the U.S.-Mexico border, reports of egg smuggling. U.S. Customs officials say attempts to bring eggs into the U.S. from Mexico are rising. The director of field operations warns trying to cross with uncooked eggs without informing a border official is illegal, and it could cost you up to $10,000. A shortage of eggs, partly caused by the avian flu, has wiped out millions of egg-laying hens and led to empty store shelves and skyrocketing prices, up nearly 60% in a year.
For 2 dozen, there's going to be $22. So I'm not going to make it with my budget, no.
So when will we see some relief from eggflation? Economist Mark Zandi says the shortages go beyond bird flu, saying fuel and transportation costs are also contributing to higher costs of food in general.
The good news is that oil prices have come down. By this time next year, certainly we'll feel a lot better about food inflation and inflation more broadly.
But some people aren't waiting to see a price correction at the grocery store. And instead of scrambling to find eggs, they're raising their own backyard hens.
So we're saving a lot having them in the backyard right now.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Cole Higgins.
All right, 2022 is a wrap, which means tax time is almost here. As you prepare your return, the IRS is warning of scams designed to steal your vital information. Consumer investigator Carice Jackman has more on how to protect yourself.
Tax season is fast approaching, and experts warn scammers are gearing up to steal your critical personal information.
There are millions of dollars every year that fall victim to these scams, and so it's a really huge problem.
Kimberly Palmer from NerdWallet says oftentimes victims are tricked into giving out their tax information.
And they reach out to taxpayers claiming that they urgently need their personal information, their financial information, because you owe taxes fees, penalties. But of course, none of that is true.
The IRS says scammers trick people in many ways. Sometimes it comes in the form of a text with bogus links claiming to be from the IRS or other tax services. Another common phishing technique, a fraudulent email that appears to be from the IRS or a program closely linked to it. Remember, the IRS will never contact you through social media, via text, or initiate contact with you via email.
Okay, Andrew Douglas back here with the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Tennessee is not immune to the nationwide healthcare workforce shortage. Matthew Malby is a co-founder of StaffHealth.com, and he's going to talk about some of the long-term impacts of healthcare worker shortage, along with what it means for patients and other nurses. Matthew, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about this healthcare worker shortage in the state of Tennessee. How bad is it, first off?
You know, we're dealing with a looming nursing shortage, and can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, no problem. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, we're dealing with a looming nursing shortage, and just like the rest of the United States, Memphis, Tennessee is also, part of that. Just for 2022, we need about, 1.1 million RNs nationwide. And Tennessee's also taking a hit on that as well.
Well, I went ahead and typed it out.
Okay, and Matthew, what are the long-term impacts of this? I mean, obviously it's tough to deal with right now, but if it doesn't get resolved and it doesn't get corrected, what's some of the long-term impacts?
Long-term effects are really going to be on the patients, unfortunately. With not enough nurses in these healthcare facilities able to give proper patient care, that is leading to facilities not being able to accept new patients. So it really comes down to the patients in the healthcare world. And if we don't turn this around, it's going to be rough for quite some time. But certain facilities have been taking some action as well, including different outside sources that can really help out with facilities during this time.
Let's talk about a little bit of that action. What's being done to help resolve this crisis, and how long will it take to get levels back where they should be?
Well, that's a very good question. A lot of healthcare facilities have been starting with some training, especially in the Memphis area. A lot of new nurses lacked training during the COVID outbreak. There was less proctors, there were less training, there was less clinical experience. So a lot of healthcare facilities are revamping training programs. And what we really are seeing is nursing going to more of a gig economy. Which means that nurses are looking for flexible schedules, ways to get paid quicker, more options. And they will really want that work-life balance since the pandemic has been going on, they're realizing that they need that work-life balance in order to maintain a healthy mindset, as well as give proper patient care as well. And I think facilities are definitely starting to see that.
How bad is Tennessee's shortage compared to some other states?
Tennessee's also dealing with a shortage as well. It's pretty up there, just like other states. I mean, there's other states I personally think that are definitely struggling more. But Tennessee is right in the realm of it. We need a tremendous amount of nurses by, in the next 10 years. It's mind blowing. But Tennessee is, we're doing a good job of trying to get that number up, get new people graduated and trained. But also bring back the passion in the nursing space as well.
Do you think burnout, we heard so much about burnout during the pandemic. Is this one of the issues, one of several issues, the main issue?
Yeah, so burnout definitely is one of the main issues. A lot of people, a lot of nurses did experience big time burnout throughout the pandemic. So it's definitely on the radar. Another very large factor is our aging population. 34% of nurses are going to be retiring this year. And with the aging population and early retirement added on to the nurse burnout is really putting a strain on our nursing shortage And everyone's trying to do their best to kind of, wiggle their way through that, but also increase nurses and, like I said, bring back the nurses into the environment they love.
What should healthcare facilities be doing to address this problem right now?
Healthcare facilities in the short term, really the flexible scheduling, they're offering incentives, they're offering bonuses to get people in. But I think a lot of it has to do, that's not sustainable for a long run, right? So a lot of healthcare facilities need to start really looking at their training, how they're really going to keep these people, retention, right? They need to retain nurses in this space so they can have a long-term impact on healthcare and healthcare patients as well.
So we're in Memphis, and of course we talk about West Tennessee, but we also talk about North Mississippi and Eastern Arkansas. How bad's the shortage over there?
Mississippi is also struggling. We do a lot in Mississippi and Arkansas. It's been hit pretty hard. Some of the biggest things that we're seeing is wages. A lot of lower wages in some of those areas, and we're working hard to get those wages up that will give incentives to nurses to start, working more, picking up more shifts, and really dedicating themselves to these facilities as we get through this pandemic, the tail end of it at least.
So now that we're, a lot of viewers are watching this and they're trying to figure out, okay, what can we do, or what can we watch for if we need medical care, if we're, a patient? What are some of the things that we can do from our perspective?
Well, from a patient, I mean, there's a lot that you could do, but first and foremost is, you need to get proper care. And what the pandemic has really kind of brought to light is, a lot of home health care, right? There's a lot of telemedicine that came about from the pandemic. Telemedicine has been, kind of on the back burner for many years, but since the pandemic, it's actually expedited it and speed up so fast that we're almost 5-10 years ahead of time now. So patients can continue to see healthcare providers. They can still continue to get care. Some of it might be from home, some might be telemedicine. But in terms of the facilities, some are short-staffed, but we're trying our hardest to make sure everything's fully staffed so we can give the proper patient care in this field.
Okay, Matthew, anything else we can touch on you feel is important about this issue and ways to resolve it?
I think we're starting to head in the right direction to really get incentivized, these nurses to start, picking up more shifts, to start working and really give patient care. And, Staff Health is here to help as well. We offer different apps for providers and facilities to get, care fast and especially for last minute shifts and long-term or short-term. We're here to help too, but we'll be following it closely. And we're hoping that everything comes out smooth at the end. So we're very optimistic.
Okay, Matthew Mawbey, co-founder of staffhealth.com. We appreciate your time. Thanks so very much. And hopefully next time we speak, we can talk about better things on the horizon for the nursing and doctor shortage. Thank you very much.
Definitely. Thank you so much. You have a great day.
There's been a lot of talk recently about the demand for retired workers during the labor shortage. And we ran a survey, and there was apparently a survey of 800 retirees all across the U.S. to find out just how many are planning to go back to work and why. And apparently there was 1 in 5 are likely to go back to work this year. Let's talk more about what else this survey had to say with our career expert, Stacy Holler. Stacy, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. Thank you, Andrew.
So listen, Stacy, I'm thinking about retirees and some of the reasons they're going back to work. And my first thing, just because it's been in the news recently, is the fact that maybe they've had this fixed income for many years and inflation is just blowing them out right now. Is that one of the reasons?
Absolutely, that's one of the reasons. I mean, people thought they had their plan set for retirement, and in so many ways, the world changed in the last 2 years. So everything's flipped around, but absolutely financial reasons are some of the reasons retirees are looking to go back to work.
I understand that, and I can understand why they're going back to work. It makes me sad, because I feel bad for them. They think, oh, okay, I got my nest egg, I'm ready to go and relax. What is I don't know if this survey really kind of gauged this, but what was their attitude of getting back in the workforce? Were they excited? Were they upset about it?
I'm so glad you asked that, because it's been very interesting in my practice and speaking with these folks who are going back. They're actually excited about going back. I've had several conversations in the last week. In fact, this morning I was talking to a 72-year-old retiree who said he missed working. He missed people. He missed collaboration. And I hear from many people that even if the financial reasons aren't the reason that they're retiring, they just thought it was the time to go play golf, they're like, they still want to be engaged. Most of the people I speak with are excited because they have an opportunity to go back to work on their own terms at this stage in their career. They could work flexible hours, they could work remote, they could work part-time. So it's a whole different purview for these folks.
I'm interested, Stacey, maybe a little bit of a deeper dive here. I would think that maybe perhaps they're excited, and I don't know if you gauge this, but they're excited because, for 2 years or so, we've been in this pandemic keeping everybody separate, and now here we are, you have an opportunity to be with people again, and so you're excited about this opportunity. Is that something you saw?
I do. It is partly because of that, for sure. But even if they're working remote, then they have some camaraderie even with remote workers. So yes, that is a part of it. I also have been speaking with a lot of CEOs in the last few weeks, and they are just bored. They're not ready to get out of the game. So I speak to a lot of people who are excited just to be back in the game. They still want to contribute. Older workers are much younger these days.
Very true. Very true. And I understand that they're going back, Stacey, to a different kind of field than they retired from. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's really, they feel like it's an opportunity to do something new and different. And that's why where a little of the excitement comes now. That's not to say, Andrew, that there's a bunch of people that are working because they really need to, and they're not as excited. But I speak to an awful lot of people who want to try something new, or the CEOs want to go into consulting, or I've spoken to people who were in more of my business, recruiting for years, and now they want to do some other type of phone work. So there is a little bit of excitement to do something that maybe you always wanted to do, and you could afford to do that right now and still be engaged. So it really runs the gamut, Andrew. People have a lot of different reasons for going back, but it's not as downtrodden as you would think. These people are excited about still contributing. There is no retirement age anymore in a lot of these people's minds.
Well said, Stacey. I don't know if you have this in your survey, but I'm curious as how employers are reacting to this wealth of knowledge of retirees coming back into the workforce. Any idea? Can we gauge on what they're feeling?
Yeah, those are the people who are reaching out to the retirees. I mean, there's a lot of challenges now in the workplace. Everybody's trying to figure out how to work remote. And it's very welcoming for these people to bring back folks. Some of them are going back to their old organizations part-time, and they're being asked to because they have the experience and the knowledge. They don't have to learn the basics of the workforce, and they can become mentors to other people. And they already have an established experience. So in many ways, it's easier to bring them in with their experience and knowledge that they could share.
What else have we haven't touched on, Stacey, that came out from this survey that you got? Because this is all fascinating to me, and it actually paints a more of an optimistic and upbeat view of things.
For me, from my purview, it is encouraging. I think these retirees who in the past years were very limited as to options. You were told to retire, and then maybe if you still needed to work or wanted to be engaged in work, you had to look locally because you still, at an older age, you might not want to commute 2 hours a day. So you were pretty limited in what your choices are. But the choices for retirees who want to go back to work now is much more open. in. And that's why you hear in me a little excitement about it, because I'm hearing people who still want to be engaged and have opportunities they didn't have before. So although a lot of them are also doing it for financial reasons, it's not like earlier in their career where they might have taken something that they didn't love because they had to. Retirees are feeling a little more wiggle room in really doing something that they like to do, and they might not have to do it full time. So they could enjoy it more on a part-time basis.
I follow 100%. Anything else, Stacey, before we let you go? This has been very informative. I like it a lot.
Well, I love preaching this and letting people know it's out there, because I do think that there are retirees out there who don't know this is a good time for them. Whether they want to get back in for financial reasons, they just want to stay engaged, they still want to contribute, or there's something they always wanted to do that they might have the opportunity to do now. So I love sharing that information, and I hope those folks out there who still want to be engaged realize they can be if they'd like to today.
Okay, Stacey Holler, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. We appreciate your fact-finding mission, and take care of yourself, okay?
Thank you so much.
Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. There is a new COVID-19 variant that is spreading in the U.S. Let's talk more about this with Dr. Jamie Wagner. She's clinical assistant professor of pharmacy practice at the University of Mississippi School of Pharmacy. Dr. Wagner, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Andrew. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Are you in Oxford or in Jackson?
I'm actually in Jackson.
Okay, great. So tell us about this COVID variant.
Yeah, so this COVID variant is actually a sub-variant of the original Omicron strain. So two different Omicron strains decided that they would like to cooperate and work together. And so they kind of merged into this XBB.1.5. So it is still an Omicron strain, but it's just a little bit more virulent, meaning it's easier to spread to people. And so that's why we're seeing it spread so quickly through the US right now.
So easier to spread, but my understanding, and I'm not a doctor, so forgive me, but my understanding is it's easier to spread, but it's less harsh. Is that correct?
That is correct from what we know of right now, yes.
Okay, so what else do we know about this variant, how it's affecting people? How long has it been around?
So I think that's a great question. So the variant has just recently emerged within the last couple of months. And so again, as far as we know, there are still a lot of people having hospitalizations, but having a vaccine or a prior COVID exposure has actually prepped immune systems to be ready to tackle this one. So I think that's just the more important thing to keep in mind, is that if you can get a vaccine, even the updated bivalent Omicron booster COVID vaccine, that will offer a lot more protection against any of the severe and harsher side effects from this new strain that's coming out.
Okay, and we've been seeing over the last, I think it's more recently now as opposed to, let's say, 2 years ago, where the vaccine is getting a lot more critical, a more critical eye of what exactly are the side effects? Do people really need it? The spike proteins. So to our audience out there that's very concerned about the vaccine and maybe some of the side effects, what do you have to say to that?
I think that's a great question, and I 100% agree with you. I think a lot of people are still very concerned about what are the potential long-term side effects of getting the vaccine. And I think you really have to weigh in, well, what are the long-term risks of getting COVID, especially if you haven't been vaccinated? And so if you look at it, the side effects from the vaccine are actually quite mild. And they usually go away within a few days, versus if you contract COVID, especially if you're not previously vaccinated or have not previously been exposed, these side effects can be quite severe, leading to hospitalization or death. But I think the thing that really kind of scares me as a healthcare provider is the long COVID. So these lingering symptoms for months, even into years, where all we can do is kind of help treat the symptoms, but we can't help make them go away right now. And I think for me, knowing that the vaccine or any prior COVID exposures can help protect me against long COVID or protect me against getting hospitalized or dying from any new strains that are going to be coming out or are currently out, I think that really speaks volumes to me to go ahead and give me a peace of mind that I'd rather get the vaccine than worry about any long-term downstream effects from contracting COVID.
Okay. And again, I don't want to get into, you know, the argument or the both sides of the vaccine debate, because there's so much to do with that. But from your perspective, how many people who get COVID get long COVID?
It's actually a quite high percentage of people will get long COVID, but at the same time, it's really hard to know who will get it. So it doesn't necessarily matter if it was a super severe incidence of the infection versus a mild incidence. We just can't tell who is more at risk for having long COVID than others. But the risk of getting long COVID after an infection is quite high. And we're talking around like 70–80% of people.
Okay, so what's the biggest takeaway here? We got this new variant. It's not as strong as some of the other variants, but it's spreading faster. And there might be some people out there that says, you know, we've been through, we've had this pandemic going in its third year right now. I'm going to take my chances on maybe getting COVID, or I don't want that vaccine, or maybe I want a vaccine, but I don't want the booster. I mean, like, let's give the final takeaway for some of our viewers now.
Yeah, I think the final takeaway is to keep in mind that it's not just you or your mom or your siblings that you're impacting if you do test positive for COVID. I think it's you need to remember you're impacting everyone around you. And so, you know, if you think you're having symptoms, please go get tested right away. If it comes back positive, if you can stay home for at least 5 days, please stay home. If you can't, and even if you can, please wear a mask around others for at least 10 days. And also consider really reaching out to a prescriber, going to a pharmacy or to an urgent care center, and they can do test and treat options right there. We have a lot of antivirals that newer strains and be effective at reducing the duration of the symptoms. And so I think that that's really kind of the key point here, is to take care of yourself and take care of others.
Dr. Jamie Wagner, I really appreciate you breaking it down for us and looking at all sides of this debate and this information. I appreciate you breaking down all sides for us, and I know our viewers got a lot out of it. So we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Andrew, for having me. Have a good day.
Hey, good morning. Let me show you what it looks like outside. We still have sunshine in Midtown Memphis, but as we get a little later in the afternoon, clouds build in by 1 o'clock. It's mostly cloudy. You also have a few showers by that point of the day in Harrisburg and Forest City and Clarksdale. By 5 o'clock, though, we get widespread rain. So from Memphis up into Dyersburg, Brownsville, seeing some showers. And you'll notice where you see the yellows and the oranges as we go through time here, we are seeing some heavy rain this evening through at least 11 o'clock tonight. The threat for severe weather, none of that. And also some winter weather north of us, where you see the pink and that purple. That's snow and sleet north of the Mid-South. Temperatures above freezing here, upper 30s, low 40s. So we may see a little bit of sleet mixed in near Harrisburg, Blytheville, and Dyersburg, but again, none of that will be sticking to the ground. It's mostly just rain for us. By tomorrow morning, 8:30 here, heavy rain's gone, but we'll still have drizzle and mist and clouds in place on Wednesday. Not the best day for us on the backside of that front. The rainfall totals around 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Higher totals over towards Marks and Oxford, closer to that 1.5 inch mark. No flash flooding expected with this, but you may see some ponding, especially tonight if you are driving around on the roads. Wind advisory in place for us tonight, too. At 6 o'clock is when that goes into effect. Lasts through 9 o'clock tomorrow, and some of those winds could get over 30 miles per hour tonight. This is 7 o'clock tonight. About 20 miles per hour in Memphis, but 32 mile per hour gusts there in Helena. We'll also have wind gusts around 30 miles per hour across much of the Mid-South at 9 o'clock tonight, and then could see those gusts go as high high, you'll notice here near Holly Springs and Oxford, 36, 37 miles per hour. Through midnight tonight, we still keep those winds strong, and you'll have those wind gusts, as I mentioned, 30 miles per hour and up through early tomorrow morning. It'll probably be windy tomorrow all day too. Check out these temperatures. Around 40 this morning, 49 at noon, right around 50 degrees at 3 o'clock too. So even with some clouds and showers, we're still going to hit near 50 degrees, and then 44 degrees by 7 o'clock tonight. High of 50 today. Showers start moving in, as I mentioned, later this afternoon. So we'll start off dry, and then a 90% chance of rain tonight, with those temperatures dropping down to the upper 30s this evening. We dry out for Thursday and Friday, but then more rain moves in this weekend. Clouds increase on Saturday. May squeeze out a stray shower, especially late in the day, but Saturday is the best day to do something outside. By Sunday, though, we have temperatures in the lower 50s and a 40% chance of rain. Right now, Sunday morning and early afternoon look like your best bet for getting any rain. If anything changes with rain chances today or for this weekend, we'll update you on our First Alert weather app. Just search for WMC in the App Store and you can download that one for free. Our First Alert 7-day forecast, 50 degrees today, 44 tomorrow, and because of those strong winds tomorrow, 20, 30 mile per hour gusts, we'll probably have wind chills in the 30s all day tomorrow. We're at 43 degrees on Thursday, 52 on Friday. I showed you those 50s over the weekend, but behind Sunday's cold front, we'll drop down to around 40 degrees for a high on Monday.
Okay, Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We got some breaking news here. There is a traffic alert on Old Austin Peay Highway and Interstate 40. I want to split the screen here and show you. This is the piece that you can find to get some more details on actionnews5.com. This is from Memphis Police Department issuing this traffic alert, and it happened about 20 minutes ago. This is Old Austin Peay Highway and Interstate 40. Due to an incident, all northbound lanes on Austin Peay are blocked to get onto I-40. So this is, again, northbound lanes on Austin Peay blocked to get to I-40. It's unclear how long the lanes remain closed. MPD is asking drivers to use alternate routes. Okay, so we'll continue to keep you updated here, but that's an issue right now. At 8:42, this is a problem. Austin Peay and Old Austin Peay, I should say, and I-40. Okay, so an investigation continues this morning following an incident at the brand new Memphis Sports and Events Center. Over the weekend, the center hosted a volleyball tournament, but when a lot of spectators got back to their vehicles, unfortunately, they found a lot of shattered glass. So we have our Walter Murphy now. He was there and has details on apparently some break-ins in this area.
The $60 million facility is the first part of the new Liberty Park in Midtown, an exciting project, fairgrounds. It's also something city leaders have been trying to get off the ground since 2005 to bring in big bucks in the form of sports tourism. On January 7th, the project finally got off the ground and held their first event, a joint basketball and volleyball tournament that regional teams competed in. Last weekend, Memphis Sports and Events Center held another volleyball tournament. That's when 19 cars were broken into. The break-ins happened in two separate lots, however. Those who parked for free in the Liberty Bowl lot were told by Memphis Police Department that the Real-Time Crime Center couldn't play back the video because that video wasn't being recorded. But the victims who paid $10 to park in the new lot were also out of luck. Action News 5 went to the parking lot Monday morning, and you can see in this video, we couldn't find a single security camera on the entire lot, leaving spectators with lots of questions.
Okay, right now I want to go to the Memphis City Council. They are talking about Memphis police response times. Let's listen in for a brief moment.
I'm not here to beat you up, I promise. But I wish to put forward how important it is that these numbers are telling us a story that we've got to work with what we have to reimagine whatever we need to reimagine to get these response times back to 12, 13 minutes as opposed to 30. I guess in certain Austin Peay. Does that kind of make sense where I'm driving it?
Yes, and you know, apologize for not having all the answers today. From my standpoint in my shop, we are very concerned about this as well. I've been here for 23 years and don't like to see the response times and the hold times where they're at. So my dispatchers are constantly working, communicating with supervisors out in the field, doing everything that we can with the manpower that we have to improve those response times each and every day. And we constantly prioritize and shift. So we may have officers en route to something that's a lower priority. When that call comes in, that's a higher priority, and we know that we need to get someone there, we'll divert them, as efficiently as we can. So we continue.
Okay, so that is a discussion that's happening right now at the Memphis City Council. Longer response times for the Memphis Police Department. They're going to be talking about that along with a host of other issues, but certainly that is something that is being talked about right now. Let's move on and talk about a shooting at Main Event here. So a man is injured. Scary moments at a shooting at the Main Event that happened 11:30 Sunday night, Appling Farms Parkway. 24-year-old Dedrick Robinson charged with evading arrest and aggravated assault. Okay, so a missing Haywood County woman is confirmed dead. Law enforcement officers have arrested her husband. That's Brittany Watson, who was reported missing back in early January out of Haywood County, Tennessee. That's the Brownsville area. A warrant later issued for the arrest of her ex-husband, Kevin Watson, that you see here, for first-degree murder. The manhunt for Kevin Watson ended Friday. He turned himself in. A body was found on Kevin Watson's property just hours after his arrest. They were able to confirm it was, in fact, Brittany Watson's body. All right, so education, a big topic among Arkansas state lawmakers there, and that includes the debate over school choice. EdChoice.org says school choice allows public education funds to follow students, whether that child is in public school, private school, chartered school, or homeschool. Opponents argue school choice will weaken the state's public school system. Supporters say it makes schools more competitive for students.
Public schools in Springdale. But I also am open to the idea that that might not be the right path for absolutely every kid in the state. But I don't think any alternative should come at the expense of public schools.
School choice opponents are also concerned about the accountability for how tax dollars are spent. Supporters say this will allow children to get the schooling that best fits their needs. A new bill filed in Tennessee would get rid of class size limits in public schools. Right now, the limit for classrooms between 25 and 35 students, depending on the grade. So school leaders in Tennessee say the concern is that county commissions would force school districts to work with fewer teachers, making them teach more students.
The other side of the coin is that we got teachers leaving the teaching field because of discipline, overwork, and all these things. This is only going to make this escalate.
Lawmakers said it's not their goal to get rid of class size limits, but rather to let local school districts and counties decide what's best. All right, a special primary election day is happening today for a state representative's seat in Tennessee. We're talking about District 86. It was held by the late Barbara Cooper, who served 26 years. District 86 includes Millington, Frazier, downtown Memphis, parts of South Memphis and Westwood. Polls are open. They'll close at 7 o'clock tonight. Voters will choose if they want to vote on paper or a machine. There are 10 candidates on the ballot. The general election will be Tuesday, March 14th. Advocates are pushing back against some bills in Mississippi that would ban gender-affirming care for minors. Now, supporters of the bill say it needs to pass now. Courtney Ann Jackson has both sides of this issue.
Spectrum, the other clinic in Hattiesburg, is a specialty clinic dedicated to the transgender community.
They're saying, let's make sure youth don't have surgeries. No youth are having surgeries. It's not a thing. It's not even a thing anyway for adults in this state. There is no genital surgery provider in the state of Mississippi. None, zero. And so even adults that may consider that procedure don't have that option anyway. So why are we making an issue out of something that's not an issue?
The clinic does provide hormone therapy that would be banned for minors if House Bill 1125 clears the remainder of the legislative process. But even that, they don't begin till 16 at the clinic after clearing a lot of steps with multiple doctors involved.
A lot of times I find there's no science behind the hate,
but it's one.
All right, so Hugh Jackman, Kourtney Kardashian, Jennifer Aniston, J-Lo, Elon Musk, just a few of the people that swear by intermittent fasting. Is it really safe? How do you actually know you're doing intermittent fasting? What will it do for you? Would it help you reach your health goals in 2023? Let's bring in Dr. Amy Duffy here. She is the international best-selling author of Normal Doesn't Have Side Effects, and she has been a part of the Action News 5 digital desk in the past. We appreciate you coming on once again, Amy. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. I'm so excited to be here and share this information. It's super fun.
Yeah, I am a person that loves to intermittent fast myself. I do it at work, and I have kind of like a, 10 to 12 hour window. First, explain what it is for our audience out there and some of the different ways, because there's all kinds of different ways, I guess, to define intermittent fasting, right?
Absolutely. There's a lot of ways. I kind of narrow it down to two different ways when I'm talking to my patients. I have the calendar way and I have the clock way. So the calendar way, this makes it a little bit more easy to process. Pick 2 days of the week, make sure they're not 2 days in a row. And on the 2 days that you X out here, you're going to fast those 2 days. On the other days, you can eat like normal. You can also adjust this different weeks throughout the month. So let's say you got a hot date one night, you want to adjust your time or something going on at work. So this way, it's super easy. A little bit more difficult to fast for a whole day. A lot of people start with something more like the clock way. So you're going to pick a time frame, a window, just like you described, where you're eating, and then a window where you're fasting or not eating. So let's imagine that you're going to start eating at noon and you're going to stop eating at 6 p.m. and then you don't resume eating until noon the next day. This makes it super easy because you're focused more on when you're eating and not just what you're eating. So you don't have to count carbs. You don't have to count calories. You want to have a glass of wine? Let's have a glass of wine. How about a beer? Sure, have a beer. Or you can even eat your favorite chocolate. Now, you're going to get better results for weight loss and overall health, cardiovascular, reducing the risk of diabetes, et cetera, if you're going to choose healthier foods, right? So eat your apple, have a salad for that meal. But it really is super simple and easy to follow. I get a lot of questions, Dr. Duffy, is this safe for us to do? And intermittent fasting can be really safe. In fact, we're seeing a lot of data. That's why doctors are loving it, that it really works, not just for weight loss, for actually reducing our risk of disease. So it's very safe, and we're really recommending it to a lot of people. The few people who need to pay attention, if you're diabetic and you're monitoring your blood sugar with either a blood sugar monitor, like when you're checking your blood on your finger, or you have one of those continuous glucose monitors, you want to make sure you talk to your doctor about that. This may be something you need to adjust. Or perhaps you're on medication and that medication needs to be taken with food, then you need to pay attention to the timing there or chat with your doctor about that. Outside of that, intermittent fasting, super safe, really easy to follow, and it works. That's why it's the #1 fad diet in America.
Is it really #1? Wow. Okay. I didn't know that. #1 fad diet in America. Gotcha. Let's get into specifics about the best candidates for intermittent fasting. Is there a certain body type? What about age groups?
Kids are growing, so we certainly don't want to restrict them. Usually kids are eating more for natural hunger, as opposed to sometimes we just want to eat because we're feeling munchy or something like that. So probably you want to wait until they're older teenagers or adults before they start fasting. But kids will actually naturally fast. They just don't eat when they're not hungry, right? So that's okay, age-wise. As we get older, really, there's no age limit where you would not want to intermittent fast. So that's pretty easy to do. Really, every body type is great. And one of the best things about intermittent fasting, it's not like the keto diet. Keto is okay, and you're going to get results from that, but it's really short-lived. It's hard to live in the keto world for a really long time. But once you start to get used to intermittent fasting, this can be something that you can do for life. So it's really a great thing for anybody who's trying to either maintain their weight or really try to lose weight. If you're going to lose weight, you may want to avoid some of those those fun foods that we were talking about, at least in the beginning, until you get to your maintenance weight. But really, that's what's so great about intermittent fasting, is it really can be for anyone.
Yeah, it is. And it's something that I've enjoyed. I do it usually at work, and I don't generally do it on the weekends. But questions around intermittent fasting, because then some people ask, well, what about someone who doesn't eat all day or goes several days and all they have is, water or coffee or something like that? Is that safe? I always hear that when you do intermittent fasting, or when you fast for, let's say, a day or so, it really helps your cells. Is that accurate?
Yeah, there's actually studies that show really the magic happens when you're looking at reducing inflammation or regeneration of damaged cells, happens when you get into the 18 to 21 hour fast window and beyond that. So, for weight loss purposes, it's really great to start and simple to start with something like an 8-16 or a 16-8 fast. But when you're really trying to correct some dysfunction there or reduce inflammation, you want to get into those longer fasts. And there are some studies where doing a longer, 24-hour, 36-hour fast can really be beneficial, especially like for cancer. We're kind of starving the cancer, if you want to think about it that way. So there's some studies that really look around that. Of course, you want to make sure that you're hydrated. And again, if you're struggling with low blood sugar, things like that, then you just want to pay attention to that. Sometimes there are some foods that are allowed in the fasting. So some of those fasting days, there's some articles that talk about you can eat up to 500 calories and that still would be considered a fast. There are other people who do what they call one meal a day. And basically they're fasting throughout the day and they just have one meal. So it's not even a window of, time 6 hours. It's just one meal a day. Again, the term intermittent fasting is important. So if you go to one meal a day, that's okay, but you may want to adjust that throughout your week in terms of what time that meal is, because if you do that every day for the rest of your life, your body's going to adapt to that. And then it's not really intermittent anymore. So, once you get into it, you may want to start adjusting that time frame a little bit.
What does it do for your metabolism? Does it speed it up? Does it slow it down? Do we know? There's kind of this idea that people who are gaining weight or can't lose weight have a slow metabolism. And then people who can, it seems like they just have an unlimited amount of food that they can eat, but they're still skinny, have a fast metabolism. I don't know that that's really real. I mean, there's so many different variables that go into that. So intermittent fasting, I would say probably, whether you want to call it metabolism, but when you're fasting, it actually speeds up your body's ability to get stored fat. So you're not starving yourself. If you go into starvation mode over a long period of time, your body starts looking for energy in the form of your muscle. So it's going to use up muscle, where the ability with intermittent fasting is actually gathering your fat cells. So your metabolism improves in the fact that it's helping you to burn fat instead of burn calories from muscle or your food, basically. So it's really going to help you lose more fat. All right, so if our viewers are interested, we've been talking about this for a few minutes, they're interested, they're like, okay, let me try this out. What would be your recommendation if someone wanted to try out intermittent fasting, Amy?
Yeah, that clock way is the easiest way, is just pick a window, between 6 and 8 hours that you're going to eat, and then the window between 16 to 18 hours that you're fasting. The easiest way, just like I described, is to start at noon, end at 6 or 7 p.m. That way you're sleeping through a good, if we're getting the 8 hours of sleep we're supposed to, you're sleeping during most of your fasting. A lot of people aren't starving first thing in the morning. You can have tea, you can have black coffee. You just don't want to consume a lot of calories. Make sure, you're still well hydrated. And then you just start eating again at lunchtime the next day. That is the easiest way to get started.
Awesome. Amy Duffy, we really appreciate your insight on this. And thanks so very much. Happy New Year to you. Much success in 2023.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, it is a Tuesday. It's January 24th. We are almost done with the month of January already in 2023. It's amazing. And you know what else is amazing? Talisa Franklin's amazing. She's over at WAVN The Trend. She's talking about the community, the culture, the conversation. She always keeps us upbeat and positive, even in those trying and challenging times. And I got to say, Talisa, it was a tough morning this morning after everything that's been said and done over the last 24 to 48 hours. It was a real heavy news cycle that we're in right now. So how are you doing this morning?
I am wonderful in spite of what's happening now in our city. But you know, Andrew, the beauty of life is that I have faith, knowing that God is going to see us through. I prayed much for the mother because as a mother of a young good boy, I felt her pain. And I believe God is going to make the people that's responsible for this horrific crime pay. And I'm praying that God continue to give her strength. And even on top of that, Andrew, you know, we can't tell what our kids will and will not do. And so to those young men that did this just unhumane act, I pray for their parents, because it's going to be hard to know that my son had something to do with the problem of the murder, the killing, or the beating, however you want to say it, of another individual. Yeah. So our city is totally at an unrest, but I trust God. I trust our elected officials to do the right thing, and I just trust the process. And I'm asking Memphis, listen, let's trust the process. We know that it happened, but it's imperative that our reaction be in a way that we trust our process and we know due process will happen. And because if you do not, you will be taking on some extra mental things in your own mental health that's not going to be good for you personally. And so that's where I am, Andrew, because it was heavy, I think, for the whole city of Memphis on yesterday and coming into this morning. But we got to have the faith and the trust to know that it's going to happen. Everybody will pay for the things that was done that was not right. But we got to definitely protect our mental health, because too much of it will start weighing on us.
I couldn't have said it any better, Talisa. Certainly thoughts and prayers and all kinds of the deepest sympathies for the parents involved in all this. And then mental health. I mean, mental health, once again, is something that is at the forefront. And I understand that you're talking about a very important issue when it comes to mental health awareness that's upcoming.
Absolutely. You know, during the pandemic, many people were having challenges with the mental health, and because we were having so many, and I, thanks to my mentor, I was like, what can I do to help our people with mental health? Because we got to understand, you got mental health and you got mental illness. Those are two different things. Just because you hear mental, we got to make sure that we're taking care of our mental health. And so thanks be to God, I went through and I got licensed with the state of Tennessee in mental health. And I'm very honored that I'll be facilitating in a mental health class with Methodist Hospital North, right? And I will actually be teaching for 6 weeks. It's absolutely free, y'all. Free, yeah, free. For 6 weeks, we'll deal with the 6 steps to a healthy mental life. Let me tell you, there are 6 steps, y'all, in order to do. People say, Talisa, do you ever be mad? Do you ever be saying, yes, I have those moments, but I have to know how to turn them on and turn them off where they don't mess with my life, right? But in order to do that, I understand the steps, and I want to share the steps with you all that's listening, that's watching us. Listen, get in this class, sign up today. I'm telling y'all, it's going to be power packed. We're going to have some fun, and we're going to all be healthy together. We're going to deal with those social connections, staying active, managing stress. And that's big, y'all. You got to know how to manage that stress. Brain and healthy diet, quality sleep. You need to sleep, okay? Meaning and purpose. So we'll deal with those 6 steps for 6 weeks at Methodist North Hospital at 3960 New Covenant Pike. I am excited to facilitate this this workshop, this class. It's free to the community. We'll be in for 90 minutes to help you guide you to the steps to having a healthy mental life. And so I am inviting each and every one of you on the sound of my voice, say, listen, I got to get to that class. Invest in yourself for that 6 weeks. And I believe that after the 6 week, you'll be like, thank you, WMC5, for making sure we knew about this, because it's imperative that we have a healthy mental health.
There's no question. And I'm so glad that you're doing this, Talisa, and being a facilitator. It is a 6-week course at Methodist North Hospital for mental health, and it starts Thursday, February 9th. And we're talking about all kinds of professionals there at the disposal of the students that are in that class, right?
Absolutely. You know, not only will we give all the information about that, but also there'll be resources. You know, it's one thing to get the information, say, okay, what did I do now? Listen, we're going to get you resources, and we're going to get you different people that can help you further this. So it doesn't have to start with me at 6 weeks. Listen, there are great mental health professionals that's right here in our city. Whether you have insurance or not, let me make that note. There are so many amazing providers in our city that want to help your mental health, even if you don't have insurance. So don't listen to Lisa, I don't have insurance. Listen, this class is free, and we will connect you with the resources to help you be that better version of you that you know that you can be.
Well, Talisa Franklin, we always appreciate you and your insights and everything that you're doing for the community, the culture, and the conversation. Thank you so much. God bless you and your family, and we'll talk to you next week, okay?
All right. Thank you, brother. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, good morning. Let me show you what it looks like outside. We still have sunshine in Midtown Memphis, but as we get a little later in the afternoon, clouds build in by 1 o'clock. It's mostly cloudy. You also have a few showers by that point of the day in Harrisburg and Forest City and Clarksdale. By 5 o'clock, though, we get widespread rain. So from Memphis up into Dyersburg, Brownsville, seeing some showers. And you'll notice where you see the yellows and the oranges as we go through time here. We are seeing some heavy rain this evening through at least 11 o'clock tonight. The threat for severe weather, none of that. And also some winter weather north of us, where you see the pink and that purple. That's snow and sleet north of the Mid-South. Temperatures above freezing here, upper 30s, low 40s. So we may see a little bit of sleet mixed in near Harrisburg, Blytheville, and Dyersburg, but again, none of that will be sticking to the ground. It's mostly just rain for us. By tomorrow morning, 8:30 here, heavy rain's gone, but we'll still have drizzle and mist and clouds in place on Wednesday. Not the best day for us on the backside of that front. The rainfall totals around 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Higher totals over towards Marks and Oxford, closer to that 1.5 inch mark. No flash flooding expected with this, but you may see some ponding, especially tonight if you are driving around on the roads. Wind advisory in place for us tonight, too. At 6 o'clock is when that goes into effect. Lasts through 9 o'clock tomorrow, and some of those winds could get over 30 miles per hour tonight. This is 7 o'clock tonight, about 20 miles per hour in Memphis, but 32 mile per hour gusts there in Helena. We'll also have wind gusts around 30 miles per hour across much of the Mid-South at 9 o'clock tonight. And then could see those gusts go as high. You'll notice here near Holly Springs and Oxford, 36, 37 miles per hour through midnight tonight. We still keep those winds strong, and you'll have those wind gusts, as I mentioned, 30 miles per hour and up through early tomorrow morning. It'll probably be windy tomorrow all day too. Check out these temperatures. Around 40 this morning, 49 at noon, right around 50 degrees at 3 o'clock too. So even with some clouds and showers, we're still going to hit near 50 degrees, and then 44 degrees by 7 o'clock tonight. High of 50 today. Showers start moving in, as I mentioned, later this afternoon. So we'll start off dry, and then a 90% chance of rain tonight, with those temperatures dropping down to the upper 30s this evening. We dry out for Thursday and Friday, but then more rain moves in this weekend. Clouds increase on Saturday. May squeeze out a stray shower, especially late in the day, but Saturday is the best day to do something outside. By Sunday, though, we have temperatures in the lower 50s and a 40% chance of rain. Right now, Sunday morning and early afternoon look like your best bet for getting any rain. If anything changes with rain chances today or for this weekend, we'll update you on our First Alert weather app. Just search for WMC in the App Store, and you can download that one for free. Our First Alert 7-day forecast, 50 degrees today, 44 tomorrow, and because of those strong winds tomorrow, 20, 30 mile per hour gusts, we'll probably have wind chills in the 30s all day tomorrow. We're at 43 degrees on Thursday, 52 on Friday. I showed you those 50s over the weekend, but behind Sunday's cold front, we'll drop down to around 40 degrees for a high on Monday.
Okay, Andrew Douglas back here in the Action News 5 digital desk. I want to go to the Memphis City Council meeting right now because we have President and CEO Ted Townsend. Thank you. Ted Townsend, the president and CEO of the Greater Memphis Chamber, is speaking right now. He's showing his executive leadership team there. Ted Townsend there on the upper left-hand side. You can see Bobby White introduced him. He's there, kind of chief government relations officer, Amy Daniels, that sort of thing. Long-time chamber folks that if you've done any business with the chamber, you'll recognize some of these people here, and certainly those three for sure. And he's giving kind of a state of the economy right now, the Greater Memphis economy, Mid-South economy. Let's listen in for a brief moment if we can and see if we can get some info on what he's seen and some of the factors involved.
Really proud to have this team assembled, and they're all dedicated to relentlessly pursuing prosperity for all. Next slide, please. So this is a market overview. Got a few top line stats there. Our total MSA population as of 2022, our total real gross regional product represents 88.3 billion. We have a total regional employment of 740,000 individuals participating in our economy and a cost of living score of 92.5. Some of the key highlights, and I'll take you back in time to 2018 with the Great Recession. It took the Memphis MSA 10 years to recover from the recession, but it only took us 2 years to recover from the pandemic. And I think that's significant to note that from February 2020 to February 2022, we were able to recover while it took the U.S. 2.5 years to recover from the pandemic job loss. So jobs in the U.S. exceeded the pre-pandemic high by 0.6%, whereas the Memphis MSA has seen job growth beyond the pre-pandemic record of 2%. And in fact, 7 of the last 9 months, the Memphis MSA has broken the total employment record, 7 of the last 9 months. So we're seeing a record high of people working now. Now, the U.S. real nominal GDP grew by 9.6% between 2020 and 2021, and the Memphis area nominal GDP grew by 10.1%. So again, outpacing the national average of growth. So we've outpaced the national average in recovery, and now we're outpacing GDP growth at the national level. And most recently, I think it's important to share the accolades and how we are being recognized nationally. Memphis was named by, one of the best, in fact, top 4 cities for jobs in 2023 by Glassdoor, with 2 of our Memphis companies ranking among the best employers nationwide, St. Jude and FedEx. Probably no surprise there. But I can't recall a time when Memphis was ranked in the top 10, much less the top 5 in cities for job opportunities. So what that spells to us, and this is an employment rate trend, obviously you see the spike. We lost 70,000 jobs in the span of 6 weeks during the pandemic years, starting in 2020. So you see the spike there. But steadily ever since then, we've seen a decline with now the most recent numbers from September of 2022 with an unemployment rate of 4.14%. And our hope and expectation is that we'll continue to see that trend line decrease the unemployment rate. Next slide, please. So underemployment is also an area of focus for us. And several of these categories reflect more jobs than the population total supports, which supports the fact that we have opportunities to improve skills attainment levels to address underemployment gaps. So there's plenty of opportunity for growth in that area, and you'll hear about some of the workforce development initiatives that we have been leading at the Greater Memphis Chamber from Sandra in a moment. Next slide. You'll see business by size. And the Memphis economy, clearly from this chart, is driven by a majority of small businesses. And it's no surprise that 90% of the Chamber's membership is comprised of small businesses. We understand the importance that they represent to our economy, and we want to do everything that we can to support them in their growth here. Again, during the pandemic, we developed a small business resiliency toolkit, which we deployed. And we have a very thriving and active small business council. So we spend a lot of time devoted to providing resources and marshaling information to them so that they can continue to grow their business model in the Memphis economy. Another accolade, if you will, LendingTree recognized Memphis and Shelby County as one of the leading areas for small business formation in the U.S. And so that's very encouraging. But what we would like to see is that those companies that formed during the pandemic, that they are resilient and that they are continuing to operate. And we want to be there every step of the way during their journey. Next slide, please. So largest occupations, it's probably no surprise to anyone here that we lead in transportation and material moving in the U.S. Again, you see that greater than the national average in 2021 jobs. But other categories obviously reflect that Memphis is pretty equal to the national average in jobs within these occupational categories. So we at the Chamber are focused on bringing more diversification of employers to our community. You'll hear from Gwen in a moment about our project pipeline and what we are seeing in terms of trends for the types of companies that are interested in the Memphis market.
Okay, so that is Ted Townsend there talking about the trends that they're seeing from the Greater Memphis Chamber. He's the president and CEO of the Greater Memphis Chamber, and he's talking about what he's seen from the Greater Memphis area and how we are coming out of 2020 and 2021 and comparing it to the Great Recession in 2008. And essentially he's saying it's only taken us about 2.5 years to really kind of get back into it in terms of level unemployment and more job opportunities. Whereas in the Great Recession in 2008, it took far longer, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, even a decade in some instances. So he's going through those graphics. And of course, this is happening at the Memphis City Council. So we'll have much more about what he said and what others have said there. We've already heard from the Memphis Police Department about response times at the Memphis City Council. So we're keeping our eyes on that here in the Action News 5 newsroom. We'll continue to discuss it, and perhaps we may dip in when some more issues pop up. But I do want to move on right now and talk about tax season because it is upon us this week. You got to get those W-2 forms ready. This year it's going to be a little different. It seems like every year there's a tweak or two. So we have Action News 5's Washington reporter Molly Martinez to give us some helpful hints to get you started on this year's filings.
Tax day is April 18th this year, so you still have plenty of time. But when it comes to filing, Deputy Secretary of the Treasury Wally Adeyemo says the earlier the better.
You do your taxes as soon as possible, and that when you do them, you file online. Because if you file online, most people will be able to get their refunds back in about 21 days.
The IRS is entering this tax season with about 10 million unprocessed tax filings from last year. Adeyemo says that a lot of that backlog is the result of paper filings. He says they're time-consuming and more prone to error. He says make sure to double-check that all of your income information is correct when filing to avoid any penalties. That information is all on your W-2 form that your employer will send you. This tax season, the IRS is bolstered with about $80 billion the Democrats allocated last year as part of the Inflation Reduction Act. The goal of that money is to help with things like customer service and audits for top earners. House Republicans voted to strip that funding earlier this month as a part of a larger effort to abolish the IRS. It's unlikely that anything will come of that, though, since the Senate and the White House are both controlled by Democrats, so it won't affect you or your tax filings this year. In Washington, I'm Molly Martinez.
Ounce of cognitive ability can help you and your health goals. That's according to a new study published in the Journal of Epidemiology and Community Health. Research shows that spending as little as 6 to 9 minutes being active improves cognition scores compared to those who spent that time sitting or sleeping. Researchers saw the biggest impact on processes such as planning and organizations. Researchers believe that the Earth's inner core may have reversed its rotation. This is Chinese researchers. They studied seismic waves created through earthquakes as they passed through the planet along similar paths since the 1960s. And they found that the inner core, the rotation, may have stopped between 2009 and 2020 and may have reversed direction. The researchers claim that such a reversal generally takes place every 7 decades. One researcher not involved in the study notes that some scientists theorize the inner core changes its rotation at shorter intervals. All right, now you can live like characters on Friends or Seinfeld. If you visit Ohio, a couple in Cincinnati created a show-like experience on Airbnbs and short-term renters. Simone Jamison takes you inside the sitcom suites. Take a look.
I really wanted it to feel like you were literally on a set. If you look at most of these sets, the walls don't go all the way up. It's imaginary. It's not real.
It's a unique experience Cincinnati-based property developers Otto and Brenda Baum want to make available to all short-term renters. This Friends-themed Airbnb and Seinfeld-themed Airbnb in Cincinnati's Pleasant Ridge neighborhood are both exact replicas of the TV classics, chock full of memorabilia.
The door in Seinfeld, the entryway in Seinfeld, I wanted that to be like perfect because you see Kramer come through that door so many times.
And there's going to be some board games, and there's an episode with The Shining and the freezer, so we have The Shining and the freezer.
The Baum's concept for these one-bedroom, one-bathroom sitcom suites came in the height of the pandemic, out of the couple's love for the shows and watching them for hours with their kids in quarantine. They put their plan into action in October.
We thought, it might be fun to actually go see a set, and what would be even cooler would be to actually sit in a set, to be able to live in the set.
Finding all the furnishings, pictures, and more to match came with its own unique challenges. More than 3 months of work that took them to 7 different states, exploring thrift stores, antique shops, Facebook Marketplace, and Craigslist for finds.
It's a tiny set, it's a tiny room. At the end of the day, you still have a finite amount of square footage, so that's probably been the biggest challenge.
One they say the final product makes worthwhile, and one they want TV fans everywhere to share with their loved ones for years to come.
I want them to come here and binge watch Friends and just have time with your friends.
I want people to sort of have that nostalgic, oh, I remember when, or I remember that, or I was doing that at that time. So it's like a feeling. And I think it'll be unique to every person, but in essence, just sort of taking you back to a time and place.
And that was Simone Jamison reporting. You can start booking the Cincinnati area's Airbnb April 1st. It starts at just $175 a night. Well, after winning 11 straight games, the Memphis Grizzlies are now on a 3-game losing streak. Boo! That streak started Friday night in L.A. Also happening in L.A. was the questionable actions of Shannon Sharpe. Yeah, the Hall of Fame tight end. At the end of the second quarter during halftime, the 54-year-old started yelling at Dillon Brooks, who's 27, and then all the Grizzlies, Ja Morant, even T. Morant, Ja's dad. Everyone was eventually separated, and Shannon Sharpe on his show on Fox Sports 1 immediately issued an apology.
Shannon Sharpe still.
Listen.
I want to apologize to the Memphis Grizzlies. Grizzlies, organization and fans, I am sorry. More specifically, I want to apologize to Dillon Brooks. Bruh, I apologize. I was wrong. I should have lowered the temperature in the arena. Instead, I turned the temperature up, and I let it get out of hand.
Yes, you did. And so we appreciate the apology. And guess what? The Grizzlies will be back in action later tomorrow night against Golden State in San Francisco. Tip-off will be tomorrow at 9 o'clock. So now let's talk about Hollywood Furniture and Hardware. It is closing its doors after nearly 100 years. Kim Clark has more on that.
This corner of Chelsea and Hollywood has been home to one family's entrepreneurial dream and business for 3 generations and at least 99 years.
1924 is when we actually started, and Hollywood was obviously at that time more of a rural community, wasn't really part of Memphis.
Bart Gary's grandparents, Roy and Irene Sanford, started the business.
And they started basically as a hardware store.
But due to the remoteness of the area back then, this community needed more than just a hardware store.
They needed to be able to sell appliances, stoves, refrigerators, and then, mattresses, and so it just kind of grew for the need.
Then the second generation of the family came along, and years later, the Sanford's daughter Marilyn and her husband Burl Gary joined the business.
Yeah, it was really busy. Of course, back in the day, there were so many factories out here, and there was so much going on.
With both parents working the store, Leslie Gary and her siblings practically grew up there.
I grew up following both my grandfathers around, at the farm, and loved to know how to fix stuff and loved to be helping in the middle of all that. And so I love the hardware part.
Had a tricycle out here, riding up and down the aisles. My kids are all grown now, obviously, and did the same thing.
And just like the growing family, the business grew as well.
The old Hollywood Theater was next door. When it was torn down, we purchased that property. There used to be a drugstore on the corner. We purchased that property. There used to be a Cleaners around the corner. We purchased that property. So we've been able to expand right here.
Bart began working at the store about 40 years ago, bringing with him an idea that would give the business its unique identity.
And I saw that there was a need for this French and Victorian style furniture. Even though we still carried everything else, we really got to where we were heavy into that, and we became a destination point for that, and still are to this day.
Leslie started in 1986, thinking she'd stay only a year until she got her business degree.
God always paves the way, and God puts you where you need to be, and through the years, it's been such a blessing. So many wonderful people, and yeah, it's just really been wonderful.
Wonderful people like Jacqueline Loverson, a customer at Hollywood Furniture for roughly 30 years, starting when she bought her first living room set and beds for her children.
They just like family. They will help you,
And Jonathan Washington, who said he's been coming to the store a couple of times a week for about 10 years now.
They're pretty good people. I hate they closing on me.
Deciding whether or not to close has been an agonizing decision for the Garys.
It's just time. I'm healthy. My sister is healthy, Leslie, and I'm at the age now where I want to enjoy my grandkids and not be working all the time. And the great thing about it is we're doing it on our time.
It's just, I hope so many people come by and see us. I've been making a list for a long time of all the people I need to call that have shopped here and just may not have been here lately. And I would hate for somebody to drive up in March or April and go, oh, the Garys are gone and they didn't tell us.
Hollywood Furniture and Hardware, family run and community minded, making us proud that it's called this place home for nearly a century. Kim Clark, Action News 5.
Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. Research shows that loneliness and isolation can have negative effects on our mental and physical health. Our nation's veterans are not immune. To combat this issue, the VA has developed something called the Compassionate Contact Corps. It's a program pairing volunteers with lonely and socially isolated vets. Let's talk more about this program with Prince Taylor. He is Deputy Director of the VA's Center for Development and Civic Engagement. To discuss this program and more, Prince Taylor, good morning. Thank you for joining us. How serious?
Good morning. How are you?
Is that? Doing well, thanks. How serious of an issue is this?
Well, unfortunately, research reveals that loneliness is prevalent across an array of populations. And so even the U.S. Surgeon General before COVID mentioned that we were at risk of an epidemic of loneliness. And so at VA, we look at all of that through the lens of veteran care. And we know that our veterans are more susceptible because of high trauma, high stress, burnout, and even some clinical issues where they actually might feed off of each other. And so all of those things put our veterans at greater risk for clinical conditions such as depression, heart disease, and suicidal ideation.
So, Prince, tell me about this program, the VA's Compassionate Contact Corps program.
Yes, well, it is a virtual, award-winning, non-clinical social prescription program where we pair trained volunteers with veterans that are lonely or socially isolated that have been referred to the program by their VA clinician.
Okay, and what kind of feedback have you received about this program? You said it's award-winning, apparently.
Yeah, more than apparent. It is, yes, it's award-winning. The feedback we've received has been overwhelmingly positive. Our veterans, some of them, this is the only legitimate phone call that they get that week, that month, and so they really appreciate it. But we also have veterans in the program that are happily married. So you can be happily married and still experience quite a bit of loneliness because there are these different spheres of loneliness. We've done a survey, and over 85% of our veterans told us that the program makes them feel less lonely. And over 92% said it makes them feel that the VA cares about their overall well-being, which is great because that goes to speak to our trust scores with our vets. And I would also say that it's not just the veterans and their families and their caregivers that benefit from the program. So do our volunteers, so do our clinicians, and we've also gotten a lot of great feedback from some of our partner organizations like American Red Cross, American Legion Auxiliary, and AARP.
How much of this has been exacerbated by the pandemic, where we all had to lock down, we all had to be separated, that sort of thing?
That's a great question. We don't have the exact numbers for that, but we do know that our numbers with participation in the program have continued to increase. Since the pandemic started, we have reached over 3,000 veterans across the country with about 1,100 volunteers. And last year, they made over 13,000 phone calls around the country.
Is this program specifically designed for older veterans?
That's another very interesting question. Initially, it was designed just for the older veterans and their caregivers, but right now we have veterans from their early 20s all the way into their 90s participating.
That's great news. Okay, so we've let our viewers kind of know a little bit about this program. Where can veterans, where can volunteers go and get more information?
Yes, absolutely. Well, first, let me say that our volunteers are priceless to us. They can get into the program or any of our other great volunteer opportunities by reaching out to their local VA medical center right there in Memphis, or they can go to volunteer.va.gov online. And for our veterans and their families, they can just let their VA clinician know that they're interested in the program. It's really that simple.
Okay, well, listen, Prince Taylor, we really appreciate you, and thank you for informing us about this great program and award-winning program that's helping veterans out there. We appreciate it.
Thank you for helping us get the word out. Really appreciate you.
Hey, good morning. Let me show you what it looks like outside. We still have sunshine in Midtown Memphis, but as we get a little later in the afternoon, clouds build in by 1 o'clock. It's mostly cloudy. You also have a few showers by that point of the day in Harrisburg and Forest City and Clarksdale. By 5 o'clock, though, we get widespread rain. So from Memphis up into Dyersburg, Brownsville, seeing some showers. And you'll notice where you see the yellows and the oranges as we go through time here. We are seeing some heavy rain this evening through at least 11 o'clock tonight. The threat for severe weather, none of that. And also some winter weather north of us, where you see the pink and that purple. That's snow and sleet north of the Mid-South. Temperatures above freezing here, upper 30s, low 40s. So we may see a little bit of sleet mixed in near Harrisburg, Blytheville, and Dyersburg, but again, none of that will be sticking to the ground. It's mostly just rain for us. By tomorrow morning, 8:30 here, heavy rain's gone, but we'll still have drizzle and mist and clouds in place on Wednesday. Not the best day for us on the backside of that front. The rainfall totals around 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Higher totals over towards Marks and Oxford, closer to that 1.5 inch mark. No flash flooding expected with this, but you may see some ponding, especially tonight if you are driving around on the roads. Wind advisory in place for us tonight, too. At 6 o'clock is when that goes into effect. Lasts through 9 o'clock tomorrow, and some of those winds could get over 30 miles per hour tonight. This is 7 o'clock tonight, about 20 miles per hour in Memphis, but 32 mile per hour gusts there in Helena. We'll also have wind gusts around 30 miles per hour across much of the Mid-South at 9 o'clock tonight. And then could see those gusts go as high. You'll notice here near Holly Springs and Oxford, 36, 37 miles per hour through midnight tonight. We still keep those winds strong, and you'll have those wind gusts, as I mentioned, 30 miles per hour and up through early tomorrow morning. It'll probably be windy tomorrow all day too. Check out these temperatures. Around 40 this morning, 49 at noon, right around 50 degrees at 3 o'clock too. So even with some clouds and showers, we're still going to hit near 50 degrees, and then 44 degrees by 7 o'clock tonight. High of 50 today. Showers start moving in, as I mentioned, later this afternoon, so we'll start off dry, and then a 90% chance of rain tonight, with those temperatures dropping down to the upper 30s this evening. We dry out for Thursday and Friday, but then more rain moves in this weekend. Clouds increase on Saturday, may squeeze out a stray shower, especially late in the day, but Saturday is the best day to do something outside. By Sunday, though, we have temperatures in the lower 50s and a 40% chance of rain. Right now, Sunday morning and early afternoon look like your best bet for getting any rain. If anything changes with rain chances today or for this weekend, we'll update you on our First Alert weather app. Just search for WMC in the App Store and you can download that one for free. Our First Alert 7-day forecast, 50 degrees today, 44 tomorrow, and because of those strong winds tomorrow, 20-30 mile per hour gusts, we'll probably have wind chills in the 30s all day tomorrow. We're at 43 degrees on Thursday, 52 on Friday. I showed you those 50s over the weekend, but behind Sunday's cold front, we'll drop down to around 40 degrees for a high on Monday.
Okay, so you've heard about 401ks, health care, but what about child care benefits? As the cost of child care continues to climb, it's become one of the fastest growing trends in business, and Memphis Transit Authority is the latest company to jump on board. Starting this month, Memphis Area Transit Authority will pay $200 a month towards their employees' child care. So the company is partnering up with child care tech app Tutris, which has more than 185,000 licensed child care providers on its network. MATA parents simply just go online, they type in their city or their zip code, and then they browse through a list of child care providers that show how many openings they have in real time or on the app. And then MATA will pay the first $200 of the monthly enrollment, with parents picking up the rest of the tab. Here's what MATA had to say about all this.
I'm actually really excited that we're having this program as a three-time mom, I guess, with the newborn. This is right on time. COVID has definitely changed what the workforce could look like. Has changed what people are looking for in companies. To be able to provide this additional benefit, I think is definitely great. We have a night shift, we have swing shifts, we have early morning shifts. And so, childcare definitely can be an issue if you have a driver that has to come in at 3:30 in the morning, or if you have a mechanic or someone who works in our maintenance department that works the 12 to 8 shift. So hopefully have childcare that can correlate with those schedules is definitely a plus.
Okay, so MATA, again, partnering up with the child care tech app Tutris. Now, joining us now to talk more about the future of child care, we have the CEO of Tutris, Jeff McAdam. Actually, he's a Tutris creative director, I should say. Jeff, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Yeah, thanks for having me this morning. Happy to be here. And we're talking about Tutris as well, and the partnership with Memphis Transit Authority, and it's an exciting one for us. And we're finding that it is a very common trend that we are starting to see in business, especially in the past year or so. Every month it feels like we're doubling our partnerships. If we had 2 last month, now it's 4 more companies jumping on this month, and it's because a lot of companies are finding that their parents can't get to work because there's a childcare shortage that's going on. It's not just happening in Tennessee, it's going on nationwide.
Yeah, so Jeff, let's talk a little bit about Tutris. Many of our viewers right now, for the first time, they're hearing this. They're hearing about this app and perhaps how it works. Can you take us through how this thing works, how MATA was on board, the Memphis Area Transit Authority, if you are familiar with that, and how people can get involved?
Yeah, you got it. So what Tutris is a tech platform. It is the largest childcare platform in the country. So at the heart and soul of what this thing does is there's 185,000 licensed childcare providers nationwide that are listed on it. It's kind of like the Airbnb of childcare. So if you're a childcare provider that's out there who wants to market their program, they go to Tutris in order to get themselves out there, and it's free for childcare providers to use. A lot of people don't realize this, but 70% of the overall licensed childcare providers nationwide are those smaller in-home daycares that most parents would never even know how to find. You can't find them in a Google search. I'm a dad. I have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I was actually a reporter doing a story on this company about 1.5 years ago. I was going through the childcare search, and I felt like I was banging my head against the the wall, trying to find a place that's a good fit. You could spend weeks, if not over a month, trying to find a good fit. And then this app comes along and it streamlines the process. It helps parents go online with a simple search. You put in your city or your zip code, and it shows you all the availability in your area, and it shows you the openings they have in real time. So it says 3 openings, or it says 5 openings. That way you don't have to pick up the phone and call and not know the results before you even get the process started. And so companies partner with Tutris because they go, listen, our problem is twofold. One, parents don't know where to find childcare, like me. And 2, even if they can find it, can they afford it? And so that's where Tutris comes in. You know, the best thing to kind of combat against rising prices is the opportunity to shop around. So when you know you have 5 or 6 or 7 opportunities in your area, well, now you can kind of gauge program to program which one is the best one for you, whether it's the age range that it serves, the price that it serves, and businesses tap into Tutris for their employees because they say, we want to make it as easy as possible for you to find childcare so we can rely on you guys coming to work and being productive employees. In fact, companies like Memphis Transit Authority say, not only will we let you tap into this platform, Tutris, we're going to up the ante. We want to be able to pay $200 a month towards your childcare benefits in order to just make it a little bit easier. So if you're trying to sit at home and debate, I'm spending $1,500 a month on childcare for my 2 kids, does it make more sense for me to stay home and just take care of them? If half my paycheck is going to childcare, well, maybe that $200 a month helps ease the burden just enough to make you, feel the incentive to want to stay at work and to let your kids go to a place that you feel comfortable, a quality license program. So it's a win for childcare providers because you have parents coming directly to them. It's a win, of course, for the parents, and it's a win for the employer because they get to hold on to their employee, if that makes sense.
It does. And Jeff, I'm kind of interested because in our MATA piece, we talked about how MATA is putting forward, they're paying essentially $200 a month towards their employees' child care. Is that something where that's pretty standard, right, across the country? Or how else do companies do this?
Yeah, we have 2 different levels that we see from a lot of companies. A lot of companies just give their employees access to the Tutris platform. So that's level option 1. And then if companies want to go a step above and beyond that, they can make that contribution as well. And so Memphis Transit is kind of leading the country. They're one of the companies that say, hey, not only do we want to give access to that platform, but we want to be able to put a little bit of stake in the game and help chip away at it. And I'm looking at Tennessee's average monthly cost of childcare, or yearly, I should say, it's almost $9,000 a year. So, you put $200 a month times 12, you're talking $2,400. That's about 30% of the childcare costs for the year. At worst, infant care is the most expensive, and then it gets cheaper as the kids age up towards the age of 5. And so you get at least 30% of the child care covered by Memphis Transit Authority by doing this subsidy and this child care benefit. And what a lot of people don't realize too is, you got kids age 8, 10, 12, and you think, well, child care doesn't apply to me. My child's too old. That's not the case because this also applies for summer camps and stuff. And those can get pricey too. You could spend $1,500 on a summer camp. Well, guess what? Memphis Transit Authority is going to pay a sizable amount towards that summer camp as well. So it really serves ages 12 and under, and it's a game changer for young families, that's for sure.
Tutris. So, Jeff, let me ask you something. I'm trying to figure this out so I know it intently here. Our story, we said that MATA is paying $200 a month towards their employees' child care. The company is partnering up with Tutris. Does the money go towards the employee, to the app, the company? How does that partnership work exactly?
You got it. Well, with any benefit, whether it's a 401k, whether it's healthcare, whether it's childcare, it's great that companies want to implement something like that. But some of those can be very hands-on and intensive, and so it's more of a burden administratively. And we wanted to ease all that. So what we did is we streamlined a concierge service, so to speak, right directly through us. So the company like MATA says, listen, We want to give each employee $200 a month. You please, Tutris, streamline it through your app, have the money flow into the app, have the parents be able to take it straight out of the app and give it right to the child care provider. So it kind of just comes right through the system and then right into the bank account of the child care provider. So it's seamless. It's almost instantaneous. But it's there on a regular basis. So a parent can count on that discount when they go to pay at the end of the month or the start of the month, depending on how their child care provider works. They automatically see that $200 deduction in their system when they go to hit, send on their payments. It's already $200 deducted right off the top. So it just streamlines right through the computer system.
Okay, so it's like a credit, a $200 credit.
You got it. That's exactly
Perfect.
right.
Perfect. Okay, so our viewers, they're looking at this. They're perhaps interested in something with Tutris. They want to get involved or at least see how it works. Is this like any other app? I mean, there's 185,000 licensed child care providers on your network there. Is it just like we, put in the zip code, the city, and boom, we're done?
Yeah, you got it. Exactly. If you just go online to tutris.com, or you can download the app if you got it on your phone. And it's super easy. The very first thing you'll notice when you go to that home screen is the search box. You type in your city, type in your zip code, type in your neighborhood, whatever you want to do, and hit enter, and every licensed child care provider in your area pops up, and it shows you their availability in real time. Lets you look at the pictures if they've posted pictures of the place, if they've posted a virtual tour or a video tour. Yeah, you can do that right there as well. You can see their total curriculum right there on their front page, including like what age range do they serve. And you can even click on their state licensing information. So let's say this place looks good. As a parent, one of the first questions that I always have is, but pictures can always be deceiving. I'd love to see what the state records look like. Have they had visits and what were the results of those visits? We have it all. It's right on there. You can click on it and you can see, gosh, they were visited twice last year. And what was it for? Oh, clean bill of health. Great. I feel great. Or you can see otherwise if there's different, marks or different notes from a visit in the past. And the great thing about Tutris is it cycles on a weekly basis, a couple times a month too, to refresh the system. So it's always in good standing. We're making sure that childcare providers, the licensed childcare providers, do have their license up to date and that nothing is in default. So we only have the best quality license programs available online for both parents and for employers.
Anything else you want to mention before we let you go, Jeff? I appreciate this. It's been very informative.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, we're just excited. I mean, as a dad, I feel like it's a long time coming. The child care system in general has just been broken for decades and decades and decades. This pandemic just devastated the entire system even more. We lost over 16,000 child care programs nationwide because a lot of parents pulled their kids out of programs. They were worried about pandemic breakouts in their own childcare classrooms. And so a lot of these childcare providers and programs didn't survive. They didn't come back. And what few availability was left is only gotten tighter, which means the costs are going up and up. This is the time where employers really need to help out. They can jump in. They can really change the game. Maybe something bad in a pandemic has opened up the opportunity for something wonderful and good, a change that's been decades overdue. So we're excited about it and excited to see programs like companies like MATA taking the initiative to help their employees out.
Okay, Jeff McAdam, Tutris Creative Director. We appreciate you giving us the intel this morning, and good luck to you and the rest of 2023. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm going to say that again because I just turned on my microphone right there. Memphis Shelby County Schools decided that students at Cummings K-8 optional school will stay at LaRose Elementary for the rest of the school year and the upcoming TCAP season. So you may remember that the TCAP area, or rather the Cummings K-8 ceiling collapsed back in August. It forced the two schools to merge. Repairs to the ceiling expected to be finished by the spring. Faculty and staff from both schools being commended for creating a positive environment for those students. An Arkansas man who was photographed with his feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk during the January 6th riot at the Capitol was found guilty. Richard Barnett's arrest, and he was found guilty on charges. He could face up to a year in prison from that sentencing. All right, so we got COVID, we got RSV, we got the flu, and as a result, emergency rooms are filling up across the Mid-South and the country. And overcrowding has been a healthcare problem for years, but now health leaders say it's at crisis levels. Imagine racing into your local emergency room, but you have to wait hours to be seen. Then ER doctors admit you to the hospital, but there are no beds available. Yale emergency medicine doctor Arjun Venkatesh and his colleagues have documented widespread and increasing overcrowding. In a pair of newly published studies, the researchers looked first at the length of time patients waited in the ER before they were admitted.
Those who come to the emergency department are evaluated, they receive diagnostics and treatments, and then they need inpatient hospitalization. They need to stay in the hospital, are waiting 2, 3, 4, up to 12 and 24 hours for a bed in the hospital.
Researchers say that wait time, called boarding time, is well above the national recommendation, which is no more than a 4-hour wait. As a result, Dr. Venkatesh says patients wind up walking out.
1 in 10 people who come to the emergency department end up leaving without receiving care because the wait is too long.
The researchers say a healthcare worker shortage is contributing to hospital overcrowding, leading to the longer ER wait times. Dr. Venkatesh says hospitals may need to rethink how they deliver health care.
We have to figure out how to get people back to the bedside who have the training and the skills to do it. And maybe we start using artificial intelligence, computer technologies, other tools that we have to do the back office work so that those people can be taking care of patients and be more effective at doing that.
The FDA is relaxing some rules to make ibuprofen more accessible to hospitals and healthcare systems. The agency relaxed rules for certain facilities to compound ibuprofen into a liquid. Liquid ibuprofen products are used in medical facilities to treat current surges in respiratory infections because some patients are unable to swallow solid pills. So the FDA says it is aware of the reports that hospitals are having trouble obtaining certain approved versions of the liquid drug.
I don't know why FedEx sent a black person to my house. I told FedEx do not.
In consumer news, Forever stamps now cost a few cents more. The price of the stamps that never expire went up 3 cents yesterday to 63 cents. The U.S. Postal Service announced the increase back in October. Other types of shipping also went up. First-class mail is just over 4% more expensive. 1-ounce metered mail now costs 60 cents. Domestic postcards, 48 cents. All right, well, it's finally happening. The streaming giant Netflix getting serious about persistent shares of user accounts on its platform. Company says it'll roll out changes for U.S. users in a matter of weeks, meaning there'll soon be a fee if you log in outside of a primary account at the top. Certainly, it's an issue that many people are talking about here. Now, winter is here. With it, shorter days, less sunlight. Might be finding yourself a little down. Not to worry, though. Consumer Reports has a few tips to help you with seasonal affective disorder. Ariana Poindexter has more.
You have felt your mood dip recently and wondered why? Winter may be the culprit.
Less sunlight during the day affects how our bodies regulate serotonin and melatonin. And when levels of these hormones are thrown off, it can affect our mood and sleep.
For some people, this disruption can be dramatic and lead to a form of depression known as seasonal affective disorder, or SAD. Signs include weight gain, fatigue, trouble concentrating, and other things that make you feel off and not like yourself.
5 or more of those symptoms are enough for a doctor to diagnose you with seasonal affective disorder. But many more people have what's called subsyndromal SAD, where you're not completely disabled by winter, but you're also not at your best.
Treatment can include medication along with light therapy, sitting in front of a light box each morning to trick your eyes and brain that the sun is up. You can find light therapy boxes over the counter, but Consumer Reports recommends only using one with a doctor's diagnosis.
Some conditions that can mimic depression, like bipolar disorder, can actually get worse with treatments for SAD.
Some other ways to fight off the winter blues include getting outside to soak up as much natural light as possible, exercising daily, and try to push yourself to be social. Schedule lunch with a friend, even if you don't feel like it. These interactions may help lift your mood.
If your doctor agrees that light
so
therapy is
random.
right for you, it's recommended you choose a light therapy box that
So
produces
random.
at least 10,000 lux. With your bottom line report, I'm Ariana Poindexter, Action News.
All right, Splash Mountain is officially closed at Walt Disney World. The ride shut down yesterday. Renovations underway to make it a new water attraction called Tiana's Bayou Adventure. This new ride will come to the Magic Kingdom sometime next year. It's going to feature scenes inspired by the film The Princess and the Frog, along with characters. Again, it's expected to open sometime next year. Now let's talk about an important issue that affects all Americans, right? Because we know that there's two guarantees in life, death and taxes. And certainly these tax returns this year is going to be a doozy. There's going to be a lot of changes. So we got to go to our expert here, Mark Stever, Tax Information Officer with Jackson Hewitt, always in the know when it comes to this stuff. I saw Mark kind of laughing there as I was introing him. How are you, Mark? Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year. Very exciting time for all Americans. It's tax refund time.
Tax refund time. Certainly some changes this coming year for these tax returns for 2022. Tell us some of the big changes people need to watch for.
Yeah, it may seem like it was not a year big change because there was not a lot of media on tax law changes and that year-end bill fizzled, but there are a lot of tax law changes. We call it the year of the great tax reset. A lot of the benefits that were put into place for the pandemic, increased child credit, dependent care credit, earned income credit, being able to deduct charitable donations if you don't itemize, all of those expired last year at the end of 2021. So they're not in place for 2022, and that could cause lower refunds for some taxpayers and may have some tax refund shock or tax refund risk of shock if you're not careful. So it's probably a good idea to pay extra close attention to your taxes this year and get after it a little bit earlier than you might have in the past.
Okay, so let's walk through it just kind of step by step here. Let's talk about first the changes you mentioned, the child tax credit in 2022.
Well, for 2021, it was about $2,000 up to about $1,400 was refundable. Jump ahead to 2022 or 2021, pardon me. The government changed the bill to allow $3,600 per young child and all of it refundable. Well, at the end of 2021, that expired, so it's not in place for 2022. It's back to that original amount, $2,000. And that's just one example. So if you had child tax credit last year or dependent care credits last year or earned income credit and you were single last year, you got a much bigger refund last year. Those won't be in place for this tax return, and it could result in a lower refund. Now, there's still great benefits, and they're still there. They'll just be a lot different. So I would tell your viewers this. Don't use last year's tax return as your absolute guide for what to expect this year. Life changes and pandemic changes notwithstanding, the tax changes reverted back to prior pandemic amounts.
Okay, what about the child and dependent care credit change? Tell us about that.
Similar to the earned income credit, it was double, tripled, and made fully refundable in 2021, and then that expired in 2022 and was not updated. So it's back to the pre-pandemic amount. Now, if you do have children that were in daycare so you could work, or you and your spouse could work, or summer camp even, you still have a nice big credit. It's just not as big as the 2021 size credit was.
Sorry about that, Mark. Those who are self-employed, what kind of changes are they looking at?
Well, there's still some great benefits if you're self-employed, full or part-time, have a side gig. The big one we've seen, and it continues to be big, the home office deduction. It's available if you're self-employed, full, or even part-time, or even if your spouse is. Not available if you're an employee. And there's a host of other deductions from travel, cell phone, computer, marketing, pocket expenses, out-of-pocket expenses, lunches, materials. All of those can go in to reduce your taxable income from your side gig and make your return on your activity a little bit better. So if you have side gig income, and a lot of people have since the pandemic, make sure either you understand what all the rules and deductions and options are, or your tax pro does, and keep really good records, because every deduction reduces your taxes and can increase your tax refund.
A lot of people are going to be wondering if they can still write off their charitable donations this year. What do you think?
Yeah, well, that's one of those ones that you could during 2021 at the height of the pandemic law changes. It expired in 2022. You still get a nice, healthy charitable donation for cash to your church, your mosque, or your synagogue, and even the fair market value of stuff that you donate. Unfortunately, it's only available if you itemize. In America, you either get the standard deduction or, if larger, the itemized deductions, mortgage interest, property taxes, and charitable donation, among the many. And you have to be an itemizer to take charitable donations. People still do, but not as big as the option was in 2021 when you didn't even have to itemize to take that. But again, that one expired last year, not here this year. So when you go doing your taxes, don't look at last year's return as your roadmap for what to do. A good tax pro will know, but other people might make a mistake.
What about the earned income tax credit? Any changes in this year?
Well, it's one of the most overlooked tax credits. 1 in 5 people fail to take advantage of it. First, the good news, it's still in place. It's still a $6,000 plus maximum credit if you have 3 or more dependents. Unfortunately, for last year, like some of those other rules, if you were single, they tripled the amount of the earned income credit up to about $1,500. That, like those others, expired at the end of 2021. But it's still a nice credit. It's still a credit for moderate and middle income taxpayers that have earnings, and it's one that's often overlooked. So if you're not sure if you get the earned income credit, like a lot of the others, education credit, dependent care credit, and more, make sure you talk to a qualified, trained, and experienced tax professional to make sure you get all those credits. Because if there's one thing besides death and taxes like you open, if you leave it off your tax return, it stays off your tax return. The IRS is not in the business of making sure you get all your benefits. Only you and you and a tax pro, if you use one, can do that.
Okay, and finally, will there be more stimulus checks or recovery rebate credit this time?
Certainly does not seem to be in the play right now. They floated that idea last year a little bit. It never really caught traction. So I think you'll see one of the big stimulus payment checks like the $1,400 and the others. Now, some states are doing it, and they're creating a little bit of confusion on how you get it. Is it automatic? But in large part, there will be no stimulus on the 22 tax return. But a lot of other things still are. I go back to the credits we talked about, deductions we talked about, other benefits that if you look to your tax return, and more importantly, life changes that you had during the year, got married, got divorced, had a new dependent, taking care of a dependent parent, all of those can add to your tax return, tax refund, and they're not as big as tax law changes in the way of publicity. So if you had something big happen in your life, gone back to work full-time, self-employed, sidebar, side gig, make sure you tell your tax pro you may be sitting on some other boosters for your tax refund this year.
Mark, this has been so good. You've given us so much information out there. Where can people find that information online?
Well, any good tax company has a good website, jacksonhewitt.com. We have videos, tax tips, checklists to get started. You can put your zip code in and find an office near you. Make an appointment if you don't just want to walk in. A lot of things on our website at jacksonhewitt.com. But it's important to know next Monday is when IRS really starts processing tax refunds. So there's no reason to wait. Your documents are coming in. Get that shoebox or envelope ready. File early, get your money early. You don't have to be Warren Buffett to know that makes sense. And you can start as early as today, but it'll start filing with the IRS on Monday.
And the deadline this year is April 18th, right?
That's correct. The 15th is on a weekend, and anytime it's on the weekend, it falls to the following Monday, which would ordinarily be April 17th, except that this year, that's Emancipation Day, a national holiday in Washington, D.C., so it moves to the next day. So you have a couple of extra days, April 18th, to file your taxes. But again, there is no good reason to wait. 3 out of 4 people get a refund every year. We expect that this year. File early, get your money. File early, lock up your data with the IRS in case one of those schemers has stolen your name and your social or your spouse. So file early, get your money. File early, lock up your data. And most importantly, file early in case you have new questions that come up from all the stuff we talked about. You don't want to be up against that midnight hour on the 18th looking for records for your side gig income. You want to do it early for all the right reasons, mostly because if you do money, you get the money. And even more importantly, if you owe taxes, and here's a big secret for your viewers, if you file early and you still don't have to write that check or debit card or checking account until April 18th at midnight. So filing early is separate from paying early. You can pay later.
Okay, tax information officer, the chief tax information officer for Jackson Hewitt, Mark Stever. Mark, I always love chopping it up with you when it comes to taxes, what to watch for, what to not include or include this year. You spell it out so perfectly. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Good luck to you all. It's the time to file.
Yes, sir.
Hey, good morning. Let me show you what it looks like outside. We still have sunshine in Midtown Memphis, but as we get a little later in the afternoon, clouds build in by 1 o'clock. It's mostly cloudy. You also have a few showers by that point of the day in Harrisburg and Forest City and Clarksdale. By 5 o'clock, though, we get widespread rain. So from Memphis up into Dyersburg, Brownsville, seeing some showers. And you'll notice where you see the yellows and the oranges as we go through time here. We are seeing some heavy rain this evening through at least 11 o'clock tonight. The threat for severe weather, none of that. And also some winter weather north of us, where you see the pink and that purple. That's snow and sleet north of the Mid-South. Temperatures above freezing here, upper 30s, low 40s. So we may see a little bit of sleet mixed in near Harrisburg, Blytheville, and Dyersburg, but again, none of that will be sticking to the ground. It's mostly just rain for us. By tomorrow morning, 8:30 here, heavy rain's gone, but we'll still have drizzle and mist and clouds in place on Wednesday. Not the best day for us on the backside of that front. The rainfall totals around 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Higher totals over towards Marks and Oxford, closer to that 1.5 inch mark. No flash flooding expected with this, but you may see some ponding, especially tonight if you are driving around on the roads. Wind advisory in place for us tonight, too. At 6 o'clock is when that goes into effect. Lasts through 9 o'clock tomorrow, and some of those winds could get over 30 miles per hour tonight. This is 7 o'clock tonight, about 20 miles per hour in Memphis, but 32 mile per hour gusts there in Helena. We'll also have wind gusts around 30 miles per hour across much of the Mid-South at 9 o'clock tonight. And then could see those gusts go as high. You'll notice here near Holly Springs and Oxford, 36, 37 miles per hour through midnight tonight. We still keep those winds strong, and you'll have those wind gusts, as I mentioned, 30 miles per hour and up through early tomorrow morning. It'll probably be windy tomorrow all day too. Check out these temperatures. Around 40 this morning, 49 at noon, right around 50 degrees at 3 o'clock too. So even with some clouds and showers, we're still going to hit near 50 degrees, and then 44 degrees by 7 o'clock tonight. High of 50 today. Showers start moving in, as I mentioned, later this afternoon. So we'll start off dry, and then a 90% chance of rain tonight, with those temperatures dropping down to the upper 30s this evening. We dry out for Thursday and Friday, but then more rain moves in this weekend. Clouds increase on Saturday. May squeeze out a stray shower, especially late in the day, but Saturday is the best day to do something outside. By Sunday, though, we have temperatures in the lower 50s and a 40% chance of rain. Right now, Sunday morning and early afternoon look like your best bet for getting any rain. If anything changes with rain chances today or for this weekend, we'll update you on our First Alert weather app. Just search for WMC in the App Store and you can download that one for free. Our First Alert 7-day forecast, 50 degrees today, 44 tomorrow. And because of those strong winds tomorrow, 20, 30 mile per hour gusts, we'll probably have wind chills in the 30s all day tomorrow. We're at 43 degrees on Thursday, 52 on Friday. I showed you those 50s over the weekend, but behind Sunday's cold front, we'll drop down to around 40 degrees for a high on Monday.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. Let's talk about health care changes for older Americans. They're going to be seeing some changes in 2023. Brand name drug prices, they've grown faster than general inflation now for more than a decade, meaning a growing number of patients have had to go without necessary medications. That's why AARP has been working hard to convince lawmakers to allow Medicare to negotiate prices with pharmaceutical companies, levy tax penalties on drug makers that raise prices more than inflation, and then cap Medicare Part D out-of-pocket costs. Let's talk about some of those changes for Medicare recipients right now with Lee Purvis, AARP's Senior Director of Healthcare Costs. Lee, good morning. Appreciate you being here. So let's talk about the changes that Medicare participants will be seeing this year.
Yeah, there are 3 really big changes that all Medicare beneficiaries should be aware of. Starting in January,
really nice.
Recommended vaccines are now free for all Medicare beneficiaries. Also, Medicare beneficiaries who are in prescription drug plans will now have $35 cost sharing for their insulin.
Yeah.
And another really big important change that you already mentioned is that drug companies will now be penalized if they increase their prices faster than inflation, which will hopefully discourage them from taking those big price increases that we've been seeing lately.
The horned frogs, man. Okay, and how does this compare to 2022? I mean, you mentioned what we can expect in 2023. How does that compare with what we saw last year?
So last year, frankly, none of those protections were in place. People sometimes for vaccines were paying upwards of $100 as a cost sharing for their vaccines. And we also saw people who were taking insulin that were paying on average around $50 per month for their insulin, sometimes as much as $100 per month. So this change is a really important one because it's going to result in a lot of savings. And when it comes to those price increases, AARP has been reporting on prescription drug prices for a very long time. And the reality is nothing was in the system to stop drug companies from taking those big price increases. And now something is there because of this new law.
All right, let's talk about vaccines for Medicare beneficiaries this year. What's the change and what can they expect?
So previously, vaccines could be covered under your Medicare prescription drug plan. And depending on your plan and where you were in the benefits, sometimes you could have cost sharing of hundreds of dollars. And now that's going to stop. All recommended vaccines will now be available for free for Medicare beneficiaries. So that's going to hopefully reduce some obstacles that people may have had to getting the vaccines that they need.
We lost your audio.
Lee, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
I can. Thank you. You're back.
Okay. Yeah. So apologize for that. I was wondering if you could kind of give us some insight into people here in the Mid-South. Of course, we're in Tennessee, but we also cover Mississippi and Arkansas. Those people on Medicare that use insulin, how is that going to change in 2023?
So specific to Tennessee, there are about 83,000 people who are currently using insulin. So that is going to be a really big change for them because their cost sharing is now going to be hopefully greatly reduced down to $35 or potentially even less. And we know that there have been a lot of people who use insulin who have been facing really high out-of-pocket costs. So hopefully this change is going to take away kind of the struggles that people have been facing in terms of affording the medications that they need.
So let's talk about some of the other changes here. You're going through a lot of changes for older Americans, Medicaid, and or rather Medicare recipients. What about some other changes? When will we start to see those issues, out-of-pocket prices? I know you mentioned a little bit off the top. Any other changes this year?
Yeah, there's some really big changes coming our way that will have a really big impact for a lot of people. The first is that Medicare is going to start reducing the amount that Medicare beneficiaries have to pay for their prescription drugs every year. Right now, there are some people who pay upwards of $10,000 for their prescription drugs when they're enrolled in a prescription drug plan. And by 2025, Medicare will limit the amount that people have to pay every year to $2,000. We know that more than 1 million people are paying more than that. So this is going to be a really big change for a very large number of people. And another really big important change is that Medicare is finally going to be allowed to negotiate the prices of popular prescription drugs. We're going to know the first 10 drugs that will be negotiated by the fall of this year, and the negotiated prices will become available in 2026. And that's not the end. There are going to be more drugs added every year, and we could see as many as 60 drugs with negotiated prices by 2030.
You know, a lot of our viewers are tuning in, trying to decipher some of these changes for 2023. Is there anything else you want to tell them, you know, with regards to these changes? You've mentioned a lot already.
Yeah, this new law has an incredible number of provisions that are really going to help dramatically reduce prescription drug prices and costs for a lot of people. There are millions of people in this country who are on Medicare, and AARP is very well aware that many of them have been struggling with high prescription drug costs. And the provisions in this law are going to go a long way towards making sure that everyone has access to the drugs that they need.
Okay, and then I'm sure that there's a place online where people can go for more information, Lee. Where can people go to get this information you've talked about and perhaps some other information as well?
People who want to learn more can go to aarp.org/rx.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, Lee Purvis, we really appreciate everything that you've said with regards to breaking down some of these changes for those older Americans. I'm sure that they're going to be thrilled with some of these changes you mentioned, and then where they can go, aarp.org, to get some more information on that. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
When we get a chance, we always love talking to the best food reporter in Memphis and the Mid-South. We've got Jennifer Chandler on the line with us at the digital desk. Jennifer, good morning. We are talking about king cakes, some of the favorites out there. How are you?
I'm doing very good, and I have to just say, king cakes, in my opinion, are perfect for breakfast, lunch, dinner, afternoon snack, late night snack, you name it. You can enjoy them all you want for the next few weeks.
Oh yeah, round the clock, baby. Here we go.
So if you're not familiar with king cakes, it's a Mardi Gras tradition that kicks off during Epiphany, which was January 6th. And from that point on until Fat Tuesday, which is the day before Ash Wednesday, you can enjoy a king cake. And the tradition goes is this cake is it's like a yeasty cake similar to a cinnamon roll dough, and it can be stuffed with lots of good things, but it's always decorated with like vanilla icing and has the cinnamon sugar, not cinnamon sugar, but the colored sugars on top and the Mardi Gras colors of gold and purple and green. And they are so good. But one of the things, if you happen to get the baby when you're taking a piece, tradition has it that you are to host the next party and bring the king cake for the next party. So it's kind of a catch-22. You get to be king for the day, but then you got to bring the next king cake.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, everyone always wants to find the baby, right?
I know. Well, and it used to be that if you wanted a good king cake, you'd have to drive down to New Orleans, or you'd have to have one shipped to Memphis. And over the past few years, more and more Memphis bakeries are making king cakes, and they are making really good king cakes. So I have on the commercialappeal.com right now, I have a list of 14 places in the Memphis area where you can find a delicious king cake. But I wanted to talk about a few of them because they're all a little bit different. And actually, I think a good challenge should be spend the next 2 weeks tasting all 14 of them would be a good one. It'd be a good challenge to have.
Ooh, good.
So you ready to get started?
Let's do it. Brutus.
Okay, so one of my favorites has to do with the fact that I like a cream cheese stuffed king cake. And Sweet Lala's Bakery in East Memphis has a really good cinnamon roll dough, and they have turned it into this kind of big, and it's kind of, you can see from the picture, the cake is kind of like, it's fat. It's like this big, and it is stuffed with this delicious vanilla cream cheese. And it is really, really good. It's good room temperature, but if you ever happen to catch one when they're pulling them out of the oven when it's warm, or you reheat it, it's nice, and the icing gets all gooey, and it's really, really worth every calorie that you can have. But that's a really pretty one that you can see that they have. It's one of my favorite. La Baguette makes a really good one as well. And theirs is more what you would think of when you get one from Gambino's or someplace like that down in New Orleans. It's a thinner type cake, but again, it has all the goodness, and you can order it. La Baguette, I actually think they just have the cinnamon roll flavor. Not cinnamon, but the cinnamon flavor. But there are places like the Donut Hut. We didn't have a picture of theirs, but they're out in Collierville, and they make a king cake, and they can have it stuffed with everything from like cherry and blueberry. I think they're doing a Bavarian cream one this year. And they have multiple sizes so that you, depending on what size group you're getting, you can get a really big giant one, or you can get a medium one, or you can get a small one that feeds maybe like 6 to 10 people. So the Donut Hut has a lot of different flavors and different types of things you can choose from. moving away from those traditional versions that those two places, if you're just wanting a king cake for two, what some of us sometimes do, the Ginger's Bread Company in Midtown, he makes a traditional size king cake, but he also makes one that serves two, that's really tasty and it's very cute. There's also Memphis Whistle, which is a bar. You would not think to pick up your king cakes, but they make individual size king cakes there. And what's really cool about there, Jeff Hicks, who is the owner, he's a mixologist. He's all about making his own infused alcohols and spirits, and he infuses vodka with cinnamon bark to make this kind of almost like fireball-ish type vodka, and they use that as the cinnamon base when they're making the icing for their king cakes. So that's kind of fun. And you can order those in advance. She'll have them. Amanda is his wife, and they have them. She's the one, the baker, and she has them in the restaurant. Most days, a limited number, but you can order these individual size ones there. Okay, moving from the non-traditional even further, there are a couple places doing some really interesting flavors this year. One is Farm and Fig, which is a prepared foods shop that is in the Cooper and Young neighborhood.
All good.
And owner Gina Grazzani told me that they're going to be making their traditional one this year that comes with cinnamon and cream cheese.
Yep.
But they are doing one called the King Creole, which I can't wait to get a bite of this one. It is stuffed with a banana and peanut butter pastry cream, and it's got the vanilla icing and all the sugar, on top, but it also has candied bacon on top. I mean, does that not sound like sinful and sinfully good?
Yes, very decadent. I love it. Keep it going, Jennifer.
Yeah.
We love it.
And then also, St. Michael's Church does king cakes every year. Their head pastor, priest, Ben Bradshaw, before becoming in the priesthood, he was a chef. And so he does a lot of cool things around food, and it's a fundraiser for them. They are doing king cakes this year, and they have a whole variety of flavors. I actually had their Nutella one last year. And if you like Nutella, that's definitely one you might want to try. But they have a big selection of flavors as well.
Yes.
And
seriously.
One I'm really excited about this year is, in the past, king cakes really, if you're gluten-free, you really haven't had an option, just because of the nature of what a king cake is. But this year, the gluten-free bakery Jacques Louise, which is an online bakery, you order a special order only, she is making gluten-free king cakes for those who can't have gluten. So there is an option now for those of you that want something different. One of the things I'm going to say about all these king cakes is order them in advance if you think you want one. I mean, as I said, many of them say that they have some in stock, but they're probably going to hope, the week or two before Mardi Gras, they're probably going to only have one or two in-house, and they will probably sell out quickly. And especially if you want one right about Mardi Gras, like around that weekend before Mardi Gras or on Fat Tuesday, they only have a limited amount of capability in their bakeries, so they will cut off orders. And most places I find sell out a couple of weeks in advance for those big days, that Saturday and Sunday and that Tuesday of Mardi Gras weekend. So definitely order in advance if you think you want to order one for a group. But if anything, just go find one over the next few weeks. It's good. I mean, they are so good. I have to admit, I may have already had 2 or 3.
Okay. Well, that gluten-free option, that's a good option for a lot of people. My wife's gluten-free, so that's a big one that we can enjoy and take part in. Tell us the dates again, Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday, just so we have it down.
I'm sitting here and I'm all of a sudden, I was like, had this senior moment. I'm going to tell you real quick about the exact date, because Fat Tuesday changes every year. And so, wait, I'm looking at, February 21st. As soon as I got on here, I was like, wait, I forgot to double check the date. So you have until February 21st to enjoy a king cake. So
Awesome. And then Primus Bakery, I see this one here.
Oh, it's Prima's Bakery and Boutique.
Yes.
So Prima's is Spanish word for cousins, and there are two cousins that own this cute little bakery that is downtown on South Main. It's kind of like a couple of bays down from Ernestine and Hazel's, and they do just amazingly beautiful desserts, and it's a fun gift shop boutique. And so this is their king cake, and as you can see when you look at these pictures, everybody's king cake is a little bit different, and that's what I love about it. It's fun to go and taste and see how different they are. And one of the things about Prima's is, in addition to the king cakes, they're making king cake donuts, they're making king cake macaroons, they're making I think king cake decorated cookies. So they have a lot of fun things on their menu that are definitely worth checking out. I'm trying to think of who else that I have forgotten to mention. There's so many good ones on the list. Oh, and it's not necessarily a cake, so it didn't make my list, but insiders know that if you love a donut and you love a king cake, the 2 weeks prior to Fat Tuesday, king cake donuts show up in the case at Gibson's Donuts. So that's a good thing to know.
Say no more. That's awesome. I love the cream cheese filling. I mean, the Bavarian cream and some of the other ones. I didn't know there was so much creativity when it came to king cakes. It wasn't. I knew it was not a one size fits all, but certainly there's a lot of creativity. I really enjoyed that. Okay, so people can see this on commercialappeal.com/food, right, Jennifer?
Yes, I have the full list is up there now, and it'll actually be in the print edition Friday. And definitely check it out. And I said, let me know what are your favorites. And if you discover one somewhere else that somehow I missed, please let me know, because I'm originally from New Orleans. I was born there. I mean, I grew up pretty much in Memphis, but there's certain things that have a special place in my heart, and the king cake tradition is one that definitely does. So I want to make sure that I include everyone that I can in that list. So if you find someone that's making a great one, send me a note. Let me know.
Awesome. Jennifer Chandler, the Commercial Appeal food reporter. We always appreciate your segment here on the Digital Desk. Thanks very much.
It's good to see you. Happy Mardi Gras.
Okay, thank you. Good to see you as well. Okay, did you know that 90% of Americans, 90% say money affects their stress level, and they're anxious about their financial situation? And another huge majority, 88% of Americans, believe they have room for improvement when it comes to their financial wellness. So with that in mind, and January being Financial Wellness Month, let's bring in Tammy Trenta. She's the founder and CEO of Family Financial to talk about ways that we can improve our financial health. Good morning, Tammy. I know that when people think of New Year's resolutions, at the top of the list, in addition to diet and exercise, is finances. So where do we start?
That's a great question. I like to equate financial wellness in the beginning of the year, much like an annual wellness visit at the doctor. And the first thing that you want to do is get organized, gather all of your statements, homeowners, property tax, investments, bank accounts, Social Security. You want to get your estate planning in order, and just look at those things, because laws change, the economy has changed, premiums have changed, we've had inflation. So kind of gathering the information is a really important first step. So we do our annual wellness checkups once a year in the beginning of the year, because most investors want to know how they did. And so then that leads us to the next step, which would be knowing your rate of return. Now, this might not be a great year to look at how you did, but you can't really put your head in the sand. It wasn't a great year in the stock market, and you need to make sure that you're still on track for meeting your goals. So you want to look at how your performance was. What was your rate of return this year? Surprising how many people don't know that. Whether there were any losses harvested in your account for your income taxes, or any rebalancing that had been done throughout the year. If you don't have an investment account yet or an advisor, the beginning of the year is a great time to get started.
Yeah, no question, Tammy. In fact, a financial planner is recommended. I have one, and the way I tell people is like, hey, you know, that's their whole job, is to know rates of return, know what the market's going to do, look at predictors, things that I don't have time to spend on. They focus on it, and so when I talk about having a financial planner, it's huge. I would think that when you start getting organized, one of the ways that you begin is with a budget, right?
Absolutely, especially in a year where we've had, unprecedented inflation since the 70s. So a lot of those things or subscriptions that you've had might have snuck up throughout the year. And so it's a great time to review your budget, review your savings goal. You might even find some new money for a new goal that you might have this year by just taking a look at what you need and what you don't need.
Exactly. And budget, saving goals. What about knowing the numbers? That's on the list too. Tell me about that.
Well, one thing that you need to do is know what you need in order to become financially independent. And that means knowing your numbers. So updating a financial plan is a great way to start off the year, especially in a year where, like I said, we've had a down market. The down markets happen maybe once every 4 or 5 years. So you want to make sure you're still on track. If you're not on track, then right now is the best time to change what you're doing, because wealth accumulation tends to accelerate or decelerate pretty quickly the longer that time goes on. So, I think there's a statistic every 5 years that you delay your savings, you actually have to double the savings to meet the same savings target.
One of the things that I'm concerned about, just looking at things, is I'm concerned about inflation, and inflation being at such a high rate. It was, the highest in 40 years last year. There's nothing that suggests that it's going down considerably anytime soon. How do you combat against that as a financial planner? What do you tell your clients?
Well, when we go through the financial plans, we account for inflation. So that's something that you want to make sure when you do your projections that you have an increased spending level every year. So if you're spending $80,000 a year, you need to be able to spend more to just have the same expenses. So that's how we handle inflation. But I also think that planning is not really a set it and forget it kind of thing. Not only are there changes in the economy like inflation, the stock market performance, the real estate market, interest rates, but you also have things in your personal life that change. Maybe you're getting married, maybe you're having a child. And one thing we know is that everybody's life changes all the time. And so it's really important to have a list of things that you do to follow up and things that you'd like to accomplish throughout the year.
Tammy, this has been a great list. Is there anything else we haven't touched on you feel is important? Because, this is January is one of those months where everyone's trying to get their financial goals in shape and set for the rest of the year.
Yes, the last thing that I'll say is you need to look at it every year. So it's not a one-time financial plan that sits on your coffee table collecting dust. There are a lot of financial advisors out there. You want to work with a certified financial planner and someone who practices as a certified financial planner. So looking at the plan every year is really, really important, and I can't emphasize that enough.
Okay, Tammy Trent, founder and CEO of Family Financial. We appreciate all those financial tips. They are so helpful to so many people out there. Thanks very much. Okay, so you have heard that we are expecting and anticipating some showers later this afternoon. Also, we were talking about perhaps a wind advisory later this evening. Let's bring in the expert who knows. She can predict the future. We're talking about Sergey Galindo, meteorologist Sergey Galindo. How are you, Sergey? Tell us what we're expecting later this afternoon and this evening.
Yeah, Andrew, you know, I do my best with the predicting, that is for sure. But yes, we are expecting some rain and some windy conditions to come into play as we head into this evening. We're tracking yet another coastal system that's going to bring a lot of moisture to the mid-south in the form of some liquid rain, not frozen precipitation. That's going to be off to our north. But you can see that low that's going to be tracking across the area. It's out to the west at the moment, but it's going to start to push in a little bit later on today. So if you have plans, you want to get out when it's rain free, this is the time to do it this morning. Even into the afternoon, we're going to be dry, but we start to get around 6 to 7 o'clock, and that's when things change. Yeah, if you are headed out this afternoon, it's chilly out there. Temperatures are coming in the 40s, 45 in Olive Branch, 48 in Corinth currently. But again, at least we get to start the day on the dry side. So highs today, they're only going to reach about 50 degrees, and we are going to see those winds start picking up this evening. Sustained winds at the moment, anywhere from 5 to 15, but eventually this evening, we're going to start to see those gusts coming in over 20 to even 30 miles per hour. We're going to be over that at times. 39 degrees tonight, and this is when we'll start to see that wind and rain. Let's talk about the timing on everything. I have it set at 2 o'clock because you can see by 2 o'clock, we'll already start to see some light showers. Eastern Arkansas, portions of North Mississippi, and West Tennessee, mainly over Shelby County by 2 o'clock.
Hey, Sergey, we can't hear you. Is there a microphone issue? We can't hear you, Sergey.
North Mississippi and Tennessee.
Okay, Sergey, there was a portion that we couldn't hear you, but we just came back. So that latter part, can you go over that latter part that you just did just a second ago?
Okay. Yeah. So we're going to talk about Futurecast. I think that's where we were when you kind of stopped talking, or when you couldn't hear me, rather. So right at 2 o'clock, this is when we will start to see some light showers moving into the Mid-South. It'll mainly be in Eastern Arkansas and portions of North Mississippi by then. So 2 o'clock for areas west of the Mississippi River, it's already going to be raining. Can you still hear me okay, Andrew?
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay, just checking and making sure. All right, now let's continue to go through time. We head around 5 o'clock, and this is the afternoon commute that could be very wet. We're talking the potential for some heavy to moderate pockets of rain. Notice that'll be over portions of Shelby County, over DeSoto in North Mississippi, Batesville, Clarksdale, Oxford, seeing some of that heavy rain, as well as Harrisburg to Wynne to Marianna. This is when we're going to start to see more widespread heavy rain moving in. By 7 o'clock, most of us dealing with some heavy rain across the Mid-South. And then we're going to see the heavy rain shifting, but still seeing some rain falling for areas mainly east of the Mississippi River as that system will start to wrap up. But we'll still see some showers on the backside. Notice that rain snow line. It's going to stay off to our west and north, just barely. But again, we're looking at just a rain event for us. By 7 o'clock on Wednesday, this system is out of here. We're still going to be left with some clouds and some very chilly conditions, but at least it'll be dry by then. The other thing that we've been talking about is the windy conditions. Wind advisories going up for this evening, and you can see why. 5 o'clock, not looking so bad in the normal range, but when you go from 5 to 7 o'clock, we start to see those winds picking up with this system. Gust over 20 miles per hour, close to 30 miles per hour in some spots in North Mississippi, over 30 miles per hour as we head around 9 o'clock. Everybody looking at gusts pretty close to 25 to 30, and that will continue, could go even higher for places like Holly Springs and Oxford. So if there's any loose limbs that you may have, you may see some of those coming down with some of these gusts of wind that we're going to see with this system. Now, how much rain are we talking? Well, we're looking at anywhere from about a half of an inch to over an inch. Most areas will be closer to that inch mark, but it could be a little bit more for those areas that get in on some prolonged period of some heavy rain, which again, we could see some pockets of heavy rain as you just saw on First Alert Futurecast. Now, when it comes to snow and ice, nothing here, but look off to the north. That system is going to have a big impact across the Ohio Valley, places like Detroit getting in on 4.2 inches of snow when this is all said and done. So again, something that is going to be a wintry weather event 50% for places off to the north. For us, we get rid of the rain as we head toward tomorrow. We see some showers early in the morning, just a small chance by 7 o'clock. Excuse me. But then as we go into the afternoon, clouds, chilly conditions. Notice those winds will still be pretty breezy, but not quite as strong as what we're going to see this evening and tonight. So the good thing is if you have plans to get out today, most of the day is going to be good. It's just going to be once we get up toward that 3 to 4 o'clock window, it starts to move in from west to east. Your 7-day forecast shows the rain chances for today, tomorrow, just a small chance in the morning, and then sunshine, but chilly Thursday, only 43. We take it into the 50s on Friday. And then here comes the weekend, not a washout to the weekend. We could see a shower or two on Saturday. We'll see a little bit better chances on Sunday, but I still don't think it's going to be raining all day on Sunday, even though we'll have those rain chances. Andrew?
Okay, all right. Well, Tsegay, you spelled it out perfectly for us and for all of our viewers. We appreciate you. And are we going to see you on Action News 5 at midday?
Yes, I will be there.
Awesome, great. Well, we appreciate it, Tsegay. Thanks so very much.
Thank you, Andrew.
Andrew Douglas at the Action News 5 digital desk. There is an amazing medical community in Memphis and the Mid-South. Most of us who have been here for a significant period of time know that. And I want to tell you about a center of innovation at Regional One Health that's really kind of expanding some of the great things that are happening in our medical community here. I'm joined by Alejandra Alvarez, Director for the Center of Innovation, at Regional One Health. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Good. So tell me, I've never heard of this, so tell me what the Center of Innovation is.
Absolutely. So we are a division of Regional One Health that was created back in 2016 with the goal of providing a platform that aims to inspire and cultivate new ideas, research, and technology from within the organization, so members within the hospital, as well as the community and entrepreneurs and anyone who's disrupting healthcare through the use of innovation.
That sounds interesting. Sounds very cutting edge, Alejandra. Tell me some of the specifics that, I guess it's been around for a little bit. Tell me some of the specifics that have come out of the center that maybe our audience would know about.
Absolutely. So we run two different programs. One is aimed for our internal members, and that's called the Innovation Lab, where we are building innovation by capturing ideas from our members and seeing if they prove to be valid value propositions. The other is our Healthcare Startup Access Incubator, and that's probably something that the community may have heard, and that is an incubator aimed at startups, healthcare startups. And some of those companies or individuals that have participated in that incubator are Cast 21, which is a company that provided or has developed an alternative cast to orthopedic injuries. We've got Sweet Bio, who also is headquartered in Memphis here as well, and they have developed a bioengineered wound product made out of Manuka honey. And most recently, we are currently working with a company called Wellways, and they have developed a thermal sensor device that aims at detecting abnormalities in the breast in hopes of improving early cancer detection. So those are some of the participants in our healthcare access incubator. One of the programs that is aimed at external community members, entrepreneurs in the community as a way to see how we can contribute to disrupting healthcare, changing healthcare locally as well as beyond.
I love some of these innovations. Thank you so much for sharing them with us, because it's something that everyone can relate to, get behind, and really share in the successes of them. I guess it's one of those things where it really does pinpoint exactly how important some of these innovations are to have in the medical community, not just here in Memphis and the Mid-South, but all over the world, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if we can be a part of that change, we definitely want to be part of that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how well do you work with these innovators to say, okay, let's start this, let's do this, we believe in what you're doing? I mean, do they come to you and pitch this idea and then you guys get behind it? How does it exactly work?
Yeah, so for that specific program, we're very involved with the community. So usually it's a referral type of relation or connection that happens at first. And then we work specifically with startup companies that are between what we call the angel stage to Series A stage. And that's basically saying they're very early on in their development process to becoming a startup. They've got an idea for a service or a product, or they've got a service or product already created and are looking for validation. So one of the key things about our program is that beyond, contributing and helping startups, we are helping ensure their success rate after they've started a company. And we do that through validation. So our incubator brings them in to say, hey, does this product or service actually provide the value that we intended when we developed it? And so we put together a scope of work document that says, here's what the company needs in terms of validation, right? Is this the right design of the product? Is this the right size of the product? Is this the right product, period, or service? And then how should I price it? Is there anything that I should know that could inform my prototype design or my go-to-market strategy? And so at the end of the program, we hope that through that experience and that incubation, their chances at success are greater because they had the opportunity to validate. Typically, a lot of startups don't get that chance. And if they do, it's usually, after they've spent a lot of money, a lot of time. And one of the things that we know startups, are limited in is initial funding. And so if we can help them get to that yes or no question sooner and have an opportunity to tweak their product as they're going through the process, their chance at success once they do enter the market grows.
It's fascinating. It really is. I like hearing this process, Alejandra. Tell me, how do you find these companies to work with? Do they initially make the first suggestion, or do they contact you? Do you contact them? Is it a little bit of both?
It's a little bit of both. Usually, they can contact us directly through our website, but we also do a lot of engagement activities throughout the community, like seminars, conferences, workshops, and not just in Memphis. We've traveled throughout the state of Tennessee, and through, again, referrals of relationships that we have established, we have been able to also reach companies that are outside of Tennessee. For example, Cast 21 is a company that is actually headquartered in Chicago, but through a lot of the medical and startup support ecosystem that exists in Memphis, they were able to come here and engage with us. And so, again, it's a combination of either you found us directly through our site or in searching for something like this, or through one of our engagement activities that we perform.
This kind of center of innovation at Regional One, is it something that you see at every hospital? Is it something that you see across every region? Because it sounds fantastic. It sounds like most hospitals, most big, large hospitals should have this type of innovation center, or is this just unique to Regional One?
So I think the way that we've designed our program and is unique, is very unique. I will say that there are centers for innovation throughout the country. You can pretty much execute that in different ways. There's a lot of technology transfer efforts that occur most often than the traditional in a traditional way in terms of how people engage with innovation. But there's innovation centers throughout the country. The programmatic efforts that they perform are a little bit different. They vary depending on what kind of engagement they want to perform. Technology transfer offices are very common as well. But what I would say about us is that our program is specifically designed to sort of be more of an open door system versus, we are in a very regulated environment or industry. And so we've been able to put together a unique program that not only accounts for all of the regulation and things that we have to abide by, but also still allow the individual to come in and still allow the individual to incubate and learn and from that inspire new ideas, research, and technology.
All right. So where can we go? Where, if someone's watching this, they want to learn more about the Center of Innovation, where should they go?
So they can visit our website. We are at www.innovation.regional1health.org to learn a lot more. There's contact information there if they wanted to reach out directly to me or any one of our team members.
Alejandra, is there anything else you want to mention that we haven't talked about yet?
You know, I think I want to say, this is a very selfish statement, but basically, you know, this program and as well as the Memphis ecosystem, we have a very excellent ecosystem that supports entrepreneurs, that supports innovators, specifically those in healthcare. And I think that is something to be said about Memphis. And we're very proud of our program. We're very proud of our city, and to be able to bring this forward through Regional One Health, you know, is even better. You know, our hospital system is sort of at the core of the community. We are a safety net hospital. We provide care to the majority of our community members. So to invest in these types of activities and programs is something to be said about us and about our city. So we thank you for the opportunity to share that message.
Well, we thank you for all your hard work. We appreciate everything that you're doing at the Center of Innovation, and congratulations on the success, because not only are you successful there, Alejandra Alvarez, but you're successful and your success is making us all proud here across Memphis and the Mid-South. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. We are experiencing one of the hottest summers on record, and you got to remember that we have to protect all kinds of things from the summer heat. We got to protect our family, certainly our plants if we have a garden, and our pets. It's so important because the summer heat can certainly put your pet in danger. Let's talk about some of those problems there with Dr. Lori Teller. She's president of the American Veterinary Medical Association. Dr. Teller, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you so much. So let's talk about something that maybe people don't really think about when they think of the summer months. They think about getting out, enjoying it with their dog or their pet, but there's some dangers out there that people might not think about first and foremost.
There are tremendous dangers. Heat stroke is a major problem in our pets right now. We see it day after day. Pets do not cool off as easily as humans do. Some of them can be extra susceptible to the heat. Our very young pets, our older pets, and the dogs and cats that have the smushed in faces like pugs and French bulldogs or Himalayan cats, they are super susceptible to the heat. Ideally, during the day, you would just take them outside to go to the bathroom and then keep them indoors when it's time to go on a walk or get some exercise. Go early in the morning or late in the evening after the temperatures are relatively cooler.
What about the dangers of something more obscure, Dr. Teller, like algae blooms? Talk about that for a minute, because that's dangerous too, right? Very toxic.
Oh, very toxic. There is not a lot that you can do once your pet has been exposed to an algae bloom. Of course, we see this mostly in dogs. So if you are out hiking or camping, even just for the day, and you come across a pond or a lake that seems to have algae, cyanobacteria growing in it, do not let your dog swim in it. Do not let your dog drink from it. Can cause major neurologic and gastrointestinal damage that is irreversible and can be toxic literally within the day. If your dog is exposed, jumped in, say, before you could stop it, rinse your dog off as quickly as you can, and then seek immediate veterinary care.
We do all kinds of stories here about, be careful, never leave a dog or a pet in a closed, hot vehicle. Certainly, unfortunately, there are those instances where not only are you leaving children in the backseat of your car, but also a pet in a closed vehicle. And I guess even though we say it almost ad nauseum these days, it's still a problem, right?
It is a problem. I just saw a case last week, and it's so heartbreaking. Never leave your pet in a hot car. Even if it's 70 degrees outside, it can get up to over 100 degrees in your car within a matter of minutes. That's true even if you've parked in the shade and cracked the windows. That really makes no difference as to how hot your car can get. And our dogs can suffer, or cats or kids can suffer from heat stroke very rapidly. And again, it is so heartbreaking to see when it happens. Of course, if you realize that you have locked your pet in the car, get some towels, run it under cool water, not cold, wrap your pet up in it, and then seek immediate emergency veterinary care. That's the only chance your pet is going to have.
Dr. Teller, can you tell us about the heartworm protection in the South? That's an issue, right?
Oh, it's a huge issue. Heartworm disease is an issue across the United States, certainly very prevalent in the South and along the Gulf Coast. Heartworms are spread by mosquitoes, so they're rampant here. We rarely go a day without mosquitoes, and the mosquito bites your dog, and then within months you have adult heartworms living in the heart, eventually leading to heart failure. There is treatment for it. It is expensive. It is grueling. It is so much easier to prevent heartworm disease in dogs and in cats. There's monthly medication. There's also an injectable medication now available for our dogs that's given, depending on which one you get, either every 6 months or every 12 months. So don't let your dog or cat die from something that is so easily prevented.
Are there preventatives that maybe aren't working as well as they should? I know that there's a shot available. What do you recommend?
The injections are amazing, and then you don't have to remember to give something from month to month. It's easy to go into your veterinarian, just get the injection on a regular basis, which is every 6 months or every year. Some people would prefer to give the monthly prevention, and that's great too. Just remember to put that reminder on your calendar. We have seen that most heartworm preventives still are effective as long as they're given as they are supposed to be given. There have been some reports of some possible resistance, especially along the Gulf Coast. Most of that may be more related to owner compliance and giving it appropriately, but it is definitely something that we are monitoring.
I didn't even know that there was telehealth available for pets out there. Can you tell us some of the do's and don'ts and I guess the availability of telehealth for pets?
Telehealth can be so immediate, so immensely helpful in taking care of our pets. A lot of veterinarians are offering it, so if you are interested, then definitely talk to your veterinarian about it. But it's a great adjunct to your regular in-person visits to your veterinarian's office. We can use them for follow-up. Say your pet had surgery 10, 14 days ago, and we just want to check the incision and make sure that it looks like it's healing okay. Super easy to do on a telehealth visit. Or say we've just diagnosed your pet with a chronic ailment, diabetes, arthritis, kidney disease, heart failure. We're certainly going to want to see your pet in person, put our hands on it to a physical exam. But in between, if you have questions or we need to do just monitoring of progress, how your pet's responding to medication, telehealth can be a great way to do that where you don't have to leave your home for follow-up visits. Telehealth can also be very helpful for behavior cases if your pet has anxiety, reacts to thunderstorms, or gets very nervous when everyone has gone away from the home, or nutritional guidance. There's some amazing ways that we can use telemedicine. The best ways to do it are with your own veterinarian. And of course, your veterinarian is going to want to get to know you and have done a physical exam on your pet first, just to be aware of everything that's going on, and then using telemedicine in between those visits, just to help maintain that level of connection and monitoring to catch any changes potentially earlier than we would have otherwise.
What do you do if you suspect that your pet is suffering some sort of heat stroke?
Oh, yeah, which we're seeing a lot of right now. So if you suspect your pet is suffering from heat stroke, and some of those symptoms could be panting excessively and not stopping that panting in the expected amount of time, drooling, staggering around, vomiting, diarrhea, non-responsive when you call his or her name, things like that, maybe even collapse, change in gum color. If it's a cat, open mouth breathing. Those are all signs of heat stroke. You want to get some towels, run them under cool water, not ice cold water, wrap your pet up, and then head straight to the veterinarian's office or the emergency clinic to get appropriate care. There's a lot of supportive care that will need to be done to prevent further damage to internal organs into the brain.
I got another question for you. Kind of open-ended, Dr. Teller, and it, you know, sometimes there are some things that pets do. For example, dogs may be licking their paws, and that may be a gut issue. Are there any other telltale signs that can really help us kind of determine, you know, maybe an ailment or something that's bothering our pet?
So, of course, anything that seems out of the ordinary, if your pet is sleeping more frequently than usual, if you've noticed a change in appetite, activity level, engagement with the family, if your pet seems grumpy, those are all signs that something could be wrong. And pets are really good at trying to hide their symptoms because that's their natural instinct to do that. And you are going to know your pet the best. So definitely if something is off, that's a good time to go in for a checkup and see if there is something that you should be concerned about. As you mentioned, licking paws, that can be a sign of a lot of things. So allergies come to mind. Of course, if they've gotten a wound on their paw, that can also cause them to lick. Sometimes arthritis can, and then gastrointestinal upset. So if they're nauseated, they may start looking at their paws or at the carpet or at furniture, all of those kinds of things. So definitely a good time to have a chat with your veterinarian about what's going on with that. And they can do the complete physical and determine if there is a problem, or they can recommend further diagnostic testing to see if there's something going on that we can't just pick up from the history and physical exam.
All right, Dr. Lori Teller, thanks so very much. It's been an interesting and fascinating interview, just giving us some insight into what to watch for during these hot months here. We appreciate your insight, and as always, thanks very much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, that does it for us here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. Have yourself a wonderful rest of the day. We have Action News 5's Midday with Sergey Galindo, Ariana Poindexter coming up at the top of the hour. Then we'll be back at it once again tomorrow for a Wednesday edition of the Digital Desk. Take care.